Here we are, Music Relish Show, Season 2, Episode number 33. Am I right, guys?
That's
yes,
right.
Sir. Old 33.
Old 33.
Jesus
And,
died when he was 33.
Hey, you're right. Yeah.
So did John Belushi.
Hey, I've read that.
Yeah. Happy Sunday.
Is that brewer in Pennsylvania? Is that Old 33? Is that what
that
that
was
means?
Rolling Rock. Yeah.
Is that what that means?
Yeah. That was the last beer Jesus drank before he died.
Oh, really?
And that's called Rolling Rock. Yeah.
I'm going to drink that the rest
It's in
of
the
my
Bible.
life. Wine is gone.
So tonight we're going to cover a lot of topics. We're going to talk about some album covers. We're going to look at some album covers. We're going to talk about Grand Funk Railroad and their manager, Terry Knight. We're going to talk about forgotten frontmen. I think we should start with that. We've got some random relish. I've got some trivia. And we're going to talk about Donnie and Joe Emerson.
Yes.
Lou has mentioned them in the past, but we're going to get a little more into detail on it tonight, right?
Yes.
So what do you guys want to start with? You go ahead, Lou.
Their album Dreamin' Wild is considered a rediscovered treasure, an innocent treasure.
You're like 30 years after the fact or something, right?
More like 40 something. Maybe. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Mark, forgotten frontmen.
Yeah. Also, we're going to touch base on a little label from Italy called Frontiers Records too tonight. It's in the mold of CD still selling, which is something I like.
So what about forgotten frontmen?
So there's a lot of bands out there,
Who are they?
Think of the iconic frontman, and sometimes there were little fill-ins in between that never got any due. Sometimes for good reason, sometimes not. So I'm going to give you an example now. Everyone thinks that the first solo lead singer of Journey is Steve Perry. Yeah, he joined when he co-sang with Greg Rowley, but before him there was a guy named Robert Fleischman. He joined in 1977, and they tried out this whole lead singer thing. He would come out after 4 songs, sing. Fans hated it because the fans of the original Journey liked the jam band thing, the fusion thing. Right. He only lasted a few months. But he co-wrote Wheels in the Sky, Anytime, and Winds of Change. So he had a lasting impact on Journey. And in the 80s, he did a lot of stuff too. But, again, they invited him when they got their star on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The star on the sidewalk or whatever in Hollywood. He was there. They invited him.
Can I cut in? Is this the song that goes, ooh, anytime that I want you?
Yeah.
Ooh, anytime. That was a good song.
Bop, 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 bop. Yeah, great song.
Did he sing that, or was that Greg Rowley and Steve Perry?
The recording is all Steve Perry joined. He didn't do any recording with Journey. He just toured. He never made it. They started working on that album, and then he was out.
Okay.
So, yeah.
But he wrote some of those earlier songs.
Yeah, those 3 songs. He got co-writing credits. They were nice enough to give it to him.
What's his name again? Something Fleischman?
Robert Fleischman.
Robert
Fleischman.
Okay. Oh.
And he came back in a big way when this guy named Vinnie Vincent, who was the guy that got himself kicked out of Kiss, did his Vinnie Vincent Invasion. He was the singer. So he kind of re-emerged as a heavy metal singer in the 80s, Yeah. Still kept the short hair, though. He didn't last long. So another one. Journey had another singer.
I think did Robert Fleischman wrote songs after he left the band? Didn't he contribute possibly to more material by then?
I'm not sure on that. I know they're on good terms. They were never on ill terms. So he's a good singer. He's a good singer, but good thing they got Steve Perry.
Right? Yeah. Sure.
What do you mean when he said he kept the short hair, and what does this length of his hair have to do with anything?
There's a good book. There's a good book.
Well, that's what I'm curious about. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's this great book by a guy named Bobby Rock. He was a drummer in the 80s. He wrote about the disaster known as the Vinnie Vincent Invasion. Vinnie Vincent had such an ego; it's the stuff of legend.
Really?
And he drove himself out of Kiss. Like I said, he was on the Lick It Up album, and he's just full of himself.
Which always begs the question: like, what up?
Yeah. And
that's the one they wrote with Lou Reed, I think. So no surprise there, right?
Yep. So anyway, so in the book, what happened was he had short hair. Vinnie Vincent wanted him to have the big long hair. Didn't work.
It was the 80s. It was the 80s, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
but he wouldn't do
it's
it.
amazing. I mean, MTV Image videos, how many of those guys wore wigs to begin with?
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know?
Except David Lee Roth.
I was curious about because the Van Halen with the Gary Cherone thing. That guy had short hair, and everybody else had long hair.
At that point, it was different.
It didn't matter, right?
Michael Stipe from REM shaved his head. He was bald, so the barriers were broken as far as rock and roll style. Remember, there's no term for like bald bands. It's hair bands.
So it wasn't about the art; it was really about the image then.
Oh sure.
Right.
Well, although I was not a fan of the genre, there are some bands that were considered more. There were some bands that were lumped into hair metal. Was it Tesla? Although apparently you said they were a better band than that. I'm not sure because I know I'm a cowboy from the modern age, but it's a distant memory.
On a steel horse I ride.
But the thing is, you can't be a cowboy unless you ride a horse.
They had the traditional sound guitars. They didn't have like all the fancy effects on their guitars. And
that's you said that the last show, actually. I think.
Yeah. In any genre, that indie, right? Bands were there were bands rolled into the indie logo, and you're like, no, they're not indie. What is indie? I hate labels. I just hate it.
Yeah. So who else is a forgotten front man?
There's another one with Journey. After Steve O'Gary, who replaced Steve Perry, was in the band, they did a couple albums with him. He left, and they needed a replacement. They got a guy named, I don't know if you've heard of him, Jeff Scott Soto, who is one of the best singers in music. Now, he started out as a heavy metal singer. He sang on Yngwie Malmsteen's first 2 albums. And since then, he's gone on to do a little R&B. He does everything, and he's got a band called Heat that he does stuff with. One of the best singers that no one's ever heard of. One of those.
Is he an American?
Yes.
So he's saying "I'm a loser." No, I Am a Viking by Yngwie.
I Am a Viking. That was him. Yeah.
You are a loser, and on my sword you will die. Yeah, you will die.
I should have got Joe Lynn Turner to do that.
Yep, he did one tour.
Present day.
We should Michael McDonald. No, I didn't say that. He did one tour with him, and he thought he was in a band, and they told him, "No, you're out." And he's still to this day he's burned up about it. So that was a brief thing, but it was kind of neat. I was hoping he would stay in the band, but it's Neil Sean's band, so not Jonathan Cain's. Neil Sean's band.
Yeah,
he's got the Amex card.
Okay. Did you know that there was a guy named Dave Walker in Black Sabbath briefly in 1978? Dave Walker was in Savoy Brown. And Fleetwood Mac.
Savoy Brown?
And Fleetwood Mac.
So he the first singer to replace Ozzy Osbourne?
Yeah, so in 78, after the Technical Ecstasy album, Ozzy wasn't fired. He quit the band. There was a lot of stuff going on, and they got this guy, Dave Walker, in the band. He evidently, I think he's from the same area of England as Tony Iommi. Iommi likes to hook up with musicians.
They're from Birmingham. Or Tony Iommi's from Birmingham.
The Midlands.
Industrial town, yeah.
So anyway, he
lost his fingertips, I think.
In a sheet metal factory, if I'm thinking right. Yeah. So he was with the band long enough. They did a show on BBC called Look Here, HEAR, and they performed War Pigs and an early version of a song called Junior's Eyes, which appeared on the Never Say Die album. He was in for a few months, and then Ozzy called up and said, "Can I come back?" And then he was fired. But there are pictures of Black Sabbath in 1978, publicity photos of them with this guy, with Dave Walker, sorry.
Wow.
Yeah, from Fleetwood Mac to Black Sabbath. That's pretty cool.
What period was he in Fleetwood Mac?
The Peter Green period. He was on the Penguin album, I believe, if I'm thinking right. And he wasn't the sole lead vocalist. He just sang. They were in the Peter Green period. They had a couple albums where they had like 3 different people singing. So, he was just a singer and a harmonica player. So he was on.
Well, can I cut in? Go ahead, Lou.
I saw a video last week, and it was, I don't know if it was Danny Kerwin singing, but it wasn't Peter Green. It was a Peter Green tune, but someone else, another guy was singing. I didn't recognize him, but it was probably that period. Maybe it was the guy you're talking about. Maybe what's his name?
Dave Walker. Could have been.
Dave Walker.
Can I interject?
Yeah.
I read a quote recently from B.B. King, and this is talking about Fleetwood Mac and Peter Green especially. This is interesting. B.B. King said, Peter Green is the only guitar player that ever made him cry.
Right.
So, the feel that like,
Right.
yeah, man, I mean, Peter Green, they wrote Black Magic Woman,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
As a
But
guitar player, he's known for his tone.
B.B. King saying he's the only
combination
guitar player that ever made me
made him
cry.
Wow.
Wow.
That's pretty awesome.
Wow, it's not some praise indeed, right?
Yeah.
And B.B. King also had another statement. He said the best overall guitarist, like all around for all different. He said Pat Metheny, one of the best in the world.
Really? Wow.
Pat
That's big,
Metheny's a phenomenal guitar player. I
he
enjoy
is.
watching videos about him or documentaries about him. I enjoy it.
I was flipping through the channels this morning on the way to my gig, and I heard he was on one of like the New Age channels. It was like Enlighten or Chill or something. But I saw Pat Metheny. It was a beautiful song.
He wrote some of the most beautiful songs.
Yeah.
Just so Rick Beato said it, he agreed that he did a thing on his YouTube channel that one of the most beautiful songs ever written is I don't remember the title. His tribute to Bill Evans, the pianist that died.
No.
It's one of the most beautiful songs. I'll send it to you guys. It's just amazing.
Cool.
I saw his interview with Pat Metheny, in fact.
Yeah, that was a great interview. Moving on. Becca Bramlett.
Who?
Becca Bramlett joined Fleetwood Mac, replaced Stevie Nicks for one album. Did you know they did an album with another female lead singer?
No. Fill me in, man. What's going on here, Lou? What is all this?
It's a whole history of Fleetwood Mac we don't know.
Is this tripe? Is this real or is this tripe?
So
it's tripa.
It's not tripe. So shut up. Okay. We're not going to do teas tonight.
Mark checks his resources. He does.
Yeah.
Okay. So who is this person? And did they tour or was it just an LP studio recording with the singer?
She's the daughter of Delaney and Bonnie.
Delaney and
Bonnie.
Yeah.
So she's a good singer on her own. And in the mid 90s, Mick Fleetwood admitted that they made a mistake. They recorded a Fleetwood Mac album with her and who's the guitarist from Traffic that went on a solo career?
Dave Mason.
He was in the band too.
Dave Mason. He was in Journey to the Center.
No, that's not him. That's James Mason. Lou.
Just James Mason.
Yeah.
Fleetwood Mac. Anyway, so they did a whole album, a whole tour. And she said that she was blonde and she was so like, I didn't want to have people in the upper rafters thinking I was Stevie Nicks, so she dyed her hair black. She said, I'm refusing to wear a top hat and all that. And she knew, it just
no twirling at all.
What was happening at that point? Was Stevie in the midst of her huge solo career at that point? Like, what were the circumstances?
I'm not sure, but it was a very weird period. You didn't have Christine McVie. You didn't have. It was a very different band. The only two in there were Mick Fleetwood and John McVie. It was all other different people, and
was that the time of like Johnny? Was it Billy Burnett? One of the Burnett's.
That was earlier. That was with Stevie Nicks. That was actually a good album when they did that album. I liked it. That was
like Robbie Burnett, I think it was.
Robbie. Well, just like the band did, the band had to replace Robbie Robertson with a couple people, and Fleetwood Mac had to replace Lindsay with a couple people.
Yeah, because of his strange guitar tunings too. He tuned his 6-string guitar like a banjo.
Well, the unique nature of his musicality.
Yeah.
Like John Stewart used to say, he's playing banjo lines. I know it.
When John Stewart came over to my house.
One day we're gonna have to link up that, Lou. You're gonna have to digitize that, and we'll link it up in the description down below of when Nick Reynolds came over to my house.
It's an old VHS. It's an old VHS tape from like a live show with the Kingston Trio. And who was the guy that said? Was that John Stewart?
John Stewart, Kingston Trio, Mark III. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Now, to take a quick aside, John Stewart had a big top. I don't know if it was a top 10 hit, top 40 hit in like 1979. Gold
with Stevie Nicks on backing vocal.
Yes, when the lights go down in the California town. Great song.
Yeah.
And then he had a really good show on Comedy Central, right?
That's right.
Years.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
No, that's a different guy.
He might be a forgotten front man.
That's a different guy. What is it with you two, man? Come on, man.
Dave, we're off kilter tonight.
Lou thinks Dave Mason is James Mason, and you
Dave Mason.
Perfect.
Dr. Arnie Sakusan. Gertrude.
North by Northwest. Let's go.
Okay, moving on from Fleetwood Mac. When Lou Gramm quit Foreigner in 1990, Johnny Edwards joined. He did one album.
Who the hell is that guy?
Unusual Heat.
Lou,
Who are
what's
these
going
people?
on, man? Come on, Mark.
That's another
He
one.
fronted Foreigner for
Do you have
Johnny
a
1 year.
Edwards,
picture? Do you have a picture of him or something? Come on.
I don't keep pictures of Johnny Edwards in my wallet. Come on. Actually,
for
and I
president.
know this one because I bought that album. It's actually a good album, but they were trying to be hard rock, like more hard rock. Like Lou Gramm made him ballady. So Mick Jones said, "Oh, we got to change this." He was like a hair guy. He had long
I'm curious.
hair.
I've never heard it, but is it like the same type thing? Like, was it really just old Mick Jones and Mick tells Lou what to sing, or was it
That's
like
what I heard.
they go where they go? You know,
Well,
like,
I would think that because Mick Jones is a producer. He's a really good producer for, he produced quite a few albums.
yeah,
besides
he
Foreigner.
did. I know.
5150.
Yeah, exactly. So I would
And-
say that's probably the case. He told everyone.
In
what to
fact,
do.
apparently, Foreigner's one of those bands now that are on the road with no original members.
Once in
none.
a while, Mick Jones will
None.
be on a show, but that's it. Once in a blue moon.
Yeah,
That's so wrong.
That
that's
is. I would
wrong
never.
on
Mark-
many
Mark-
levels. It's wrong.
So this guy, what album was it that he joined, or after what album of Foreigner was Lou Gramm not
So
in the band?
It was one album in 1990 called Unusual Heat. It was more of a hair metal type album, but Foreigner.
Would we have heard anything from it?
You probably haven't. There was one song floating around the radio, but I bought it at Music Merchant. And John Schlapek said when I bought it, he goes, "Oh, that album." He was kind of like, because
Ooh.
He's a
Um,
traditionalist. Yeah,
but-
yep.
A
right
Foreigner
after that
purist.
album, it bombed, and then they got Lou Gramm back in the band. He came right back. So,
Hmm.
yeah, you feel bad for these guys. But
Wow,
Johnny
wow.
Edwards to this day says, "I don't regret anything. I had my moment." He
Mhm.
felt good about it.
Are Foreigner in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Nope.
They're not. They're not.
Now, should they be? It's
Hey,
an
neither is
interesting
fucking
question.
Warren Zevon. I mean, Jesus H.
That sucks.
Bullshit.
Yeah, I don't know about Foreigner. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, they're not
I know.
the most groundbreaking band. They're a great band. They had
Yeah.
a lot of hits, but did they do anything unique?
Yeah, they did a lot. Come on, man.
Well,
With these radio hits that they had, they were like for a decade, they were on top, man.
I think they had as many hits as Pat Benatar. so-
Yeah, or more. Yeah,
or more. But the
And
fact is,
by the way, they wrote
did
their
evolve.
own. They wrote their own hits, by the way, too.
And I have to admit, I like their ballads. In retrospect, at the time I didn't, but when you hear like "I Want to Know What Love Is," that's a Newark, New Jersey. There's a girls' choir, I think.
That's
Yeah,
a Newark.
on that song.
That's a New Jersey
Well,
choir. That
it's a
they
New Jersey
used.
choir,
Yeah, yep.
But even like that, and I've been waiting with Thomas Dolby on keyboards. I mean,
Yeah.
that was a little more.
Do 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 do.
Yeah,
That is a great song.
it's
That's
a
a great
it's a beautiful
sounding
song.
song too.
It is.
By the
It
way,
is.
yeah.
My favorite in that period was "That Was Yesterday." Remember that little keyboard line in it? That is so cool.
That's an album cut.
That was a single. That was yesterday. Bum,
Okay,
bum,
okay.
bum, bum.
But
Wow.
then I remember reading one time too that maybe it was Double Vision film, and there's one part where it goes like apparently it took Mick Jones a week to get that down. Like
I
he'll do it 100 times till it get like
Yeah.
and of
Now-
course now with digital you would do it like we'll fix it up.
Yeah. Now they did have a couple cock rock songs in their repertoire.
Sure.
Did they like which ones?
Dirty White Boy.
Hot Blooded.
Hot Blood is that's a cock rock song.
Yeah.
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 Dirty
Which is-
White
the
Boy.
cock rock is like yacht rock. You know,
How about cock? Yeah.
No, it's not.
How about yacht
It's-
cock?
it's a legitimate
guys,
category.
Come on, let's
man.
stay on the rails, guys. Come on.
Yacht rock.
It's all on the
Okay,
rails, man.
I'm just putting those three things together.
swing a little.
Yeah, swing it on the yacht. Okay, Al Atkins with Judas Priest. He formed the band in 1969. He stayed until
69.
That's when
Al
Judas
Perkins,
Priest
who
was
is this?
formed.
Al
Yeah.
Adkins.
Al Atkins. He was the original singer. He
There's
stayed
a pedal
until,
steel player, Lou Al Perkins, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, you never heard those early Priest songs, you know. He stayed until 1973, in which he was replaced, of course, by Rob Halford. But he wrote several songs that are on their first two
Are
albums.
you fucking kidding
And
me?
no one. There were. If you saw early photos of Judas Priest with their they went through a few lineup changes between 69 and 72. They were like a hippie band. And even when Rob Halford joined
Yeah.
the first album,
Yes.
they were just like a bluesy rock band. They dressed
Yeah.
totally different.
Yep.
Yeah.
Judas
So-
Priest, Frank.
Then it became a gimmick, I guess, right? Where once the '80s came around, you
Yeah.
had to play the part. right?
Total leather daddy. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know
Make
who?
make no bones about it. That's
No
all. That's
bones
all.
about it.
No,
Living after midnight. Yeah. Yep.
yeah, and nothing wrong. Nothing wrong.
When they would play in the city, like around '78, that era, um, they had fans of theirs that were like totally not metal. Like I got the Smitties tonight. I'm sorry, guys. Who's? Oh, Andy Warhol was a big fan of Priest
Oh.
because it was something different. He wasn't a metalhead, but he saw the imagery. He probably liked that, So
Sure.
he
No
thought they were
surprise there, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, Andy Warhol, they're artists. They're all
Yep.
artists. They're into a lot of stuff.
And it's funny. The last couple of months, I've heard some of those older Judas Priest hits. They're great rock and roll songs. They were rock and roll
rock
songs.
and roll numbers, man.
Exactly,
Absolutely.
Perry. It was rock and roll. I mean, you can call it
Yeah.
metal, but at the same time,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I am not an Iron Maiden fan either, but I mean, seriously,
sure.
Iron Maiden's not in the so-called rock and roll Hall
Look,
of Fame.
growing up,
The
I
Hall
was
of
a
Shame.
I was
No
a Judas
hits.
Priest fan growing up, and I said they're the best metal band. Years later, I'm like, no, Iron Maiden were 10 times better, and I don't know why they're not in. They're just incredible.
Yeah.
They didn't have enough home runs. They didn't have enough hits or home runs. Yeah, or the batting average wasn't high enough. Yeah,
Judas Priest got hits, but they also got what was it? What kind of award did they get at the Grammys? It was like a lifetime thing, or like
It was
thanks
one of
for
those-
doing what you did, type of
They
thing.
have all these
or
different awards
influence
just
or
to
something.
sneak bands in. They they don't get an official Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction. It's some kind of special.
It's a backdoor sort of entrance. Yeah.
Just
We'll
get
bring you in
done.
through the.
It's almost like a shame on the Academy because they should have been in before that.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, thank you, Jan Werner. Or
They should call it the Mea
fucking
Culpa
name is.
Award.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
Hey, Lou, you're a Rush
What?
fan. You're a Rush fan.
Listen,
Do you know?
I got some Rush trivia
Cool.
actually tonight.
All
Yeah.
right.
Well,
I am a Rush fan.
Do you know who Jeff Jones is?
Now you're embarrassing me. I don't.
Oh, I should have gotten you on a trivia question.
You should have.
Jeff Jones was the original singer and bass player.
Stop.
He played their first
Oh, yeah.
show
Before Geddy Lee, right? Yep.
Yeah.
with Lifeson and Rutsey, and they played at a cafe. The next week, they were booked to play again. He went to a party, didn't go. They got Geddy Lee for that gig. The rest is history. Kind of funny,
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of like when they found Neil Peart. He came by in his Ford Pinto with all his drums in it. And they're like, I love that stuff, man.
I've done that.
Great.
he probably did not have his drums in cases either. It's just
And,
he
and
loaded his
Alex
drums up.
and Alex and Geddy are talking to like, this is our guy, man. This is it. Not even knowing that he was a great lyricist.
Yeah. I think
On top of that,
they liked him because he appeared dorky. He seemed like kind of awkward. He wasn't like a rock star.
Yeah.
So sorry, Mark. Who else do you have for forgotten?
This is a sad one. This is a sad one because I really like this guy. Ray Wilson, Genesis, filling Phil Collins' shoes after he quits the band. I mean, that was a disaster to begin with. I mean,
What?
But they 97, he joined a band. They did an album called Calling All Stations, which I like. He's got a very dusty voice, a very rough voice, and the ballads on that album are tear-jerking. Really
Dusty.
tear-jerking.
Well, that's a pleasant term.
Oh,
Dusty.
man,
Got a dusty voice, Lou.
Dusty Wilson. It's not. Well, doesn't Michael McDonald have a dusty voice?
No, it's white and soulful.
He sings like Muttley, Dick Dastardly and Muttley, the dog.
Wait,
right.
so this was 97. So this was after Invisible Touch.
Oh yeah, they did one more album. The album with We Can't Dance. Remember that album?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they did that album, and then they did the big tour, and Phil Collins like, I want to do my solo career. I was done. He was done with Genesis.
Did anybody buy this record? Was there?
I did. So they had one hit on, not hit. They had a video on MTV called Congo. I didn't really like that song. It was kind of. Then there's two ballads on that album. It's Not About Us it was on MTV.
Mm-hmm.
The album sold because it was Genesis kind of a little bit. Then it dropped off. They started to tour when they were still in Europe playing, and the North American tickets just weren't selling. So the other two guys called Ray on the phone to say, you're not fired. It's just not working out. And we're calling it quits. And he didn't get mad. He was fine with it,
Yeah.
He is to this day. He lives in Poland. He's English, but he lives in Poland. He's got a solo career in that part of Europe. And he plays a lot of Genesis songs. He's part of the group,
Well,
Like Ronnie Hawkins, he found a niche somewhere. Who moves to Poland that you know of? I've never heard of anybody moving to Poland. Although it's a beautiful country, but you don't read much about it. But
beautiful.
so he probably found a niche there, like to be a big fish in a small pond. If you can keep working until you don't have to work anymore, that's great.
Yeah, and then he's a very dark, not dark as far as like scary, but his songs tend to be morose and sad, and I like that sound. You know me, I'm morose. So, all right, moving on. Here's
bringing
something
me down,
you guys both know: Rod Evans, Deep Purple, but a lot of
Deep
people
Purple
don't know him.
sang Hush.
He sang, I think he's probably maybe one of the more well knowns of the unknowns,
right?
Because you hear Hush a lot. It's great. That's a great song.
And they also had a top 40 hit with Kentucky Woman. Their cover of the
written
Neil
by
Diamond song.
who wrote that song? Joe
Kentucky.
South.
Hush.
Wait, the Kentucky Woman or
No, Hush.
No, it's Joe South.
Joe South, right? And Kentucky Woman might have been written by Eddie Rabbit. I'm not
sure.
No,
Neil Diamond.
That's
Neil
Kentucky Rain. Neil, Eddie Rabbit wrote. Yeah.
So
Elvis recorded that one.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't know about Rod Evans. They hear Hush and they think it's Ian Gillan. Yeah.
No, I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
They don't sound. They don't sound alike. Yeah, exactly. If you like Smoke on the Water, that's all you know. We heard Hush.
And if you've seen the clip of them playing live at the Playboy Mansion with Richie Blackmore with an Gibson ES335, I think it was.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Like, okay, cool.
Oh, and oddly enough, in 1971 or 72, Rod Evans formed a group called Deep Purple. They sued him. They stopped him from doing it. He was touring under the name Deep Purple. So people were going to see Deep Purple thinking they were getting the band that was all over the radio, and it wasn't. It was another one.
If I can just say, by the way, before you were talking about Genesis, since Peter Gabriel left Genesis, I thought they lacked and lost any artistic integrity after that. It was just, commerciality, and in my opinion,
it became that. But the first couple albums were very prog.
Yes,
very prog.
And I really
I had Duke at one point.
Duke is the beginning of the commercial period. There was Trick of the Tail, other things. Right after Peter Gabriel left, the albums after that, until maybe Duke, were still kind of prog, still kind of art rock.
Yeah. Where they took that Sly and the Family Stone riff for Misunderstanding.
That was Duke. That was Duke.
Yep.
But so they had the fact that where they were, I don't know. If you listen to some of their more commercial stuff, it's still kind of different. Whether it sold 1 million records or 8 trillion records, even in their genre, in the modern pop, they were still kind of different. Whether you like the sound or not, but it was like
absolutely. Yeah. I love some Genesis songs, man.
So it goes like this.
There's a reason I bought Duke.
They had Trick of the Tail, then they had Wind and Wuthering, which were, like I said, I think those were better albums than the albums with Peter Gabriel. I love those albums.
I do.
Then they had, then there were, they were great.
Yeah.
Then they had, and then there were 3, which is very ballady, haunting. I love that album.
That was the beginning of the commercial period.
Yeah, that had Follow You, Follow Me on it. Yeah.
Call it what you will,
Yeah, those are pop songs, man.
Yeah.
Those are nice pop songs. Follow you if you.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're saying, or they're not saying anything, but it's pop. It could be complete pop nonsense. I love that stuff.
It's a love song.
Yeah.
But they, unlike very few prog bands from the 70s, made the transition to the 80s. They did it on their terms because they incorporated R&B. If you had said to somebody in 75, they're going to have the Earth, Wind and Fire horns on one of their albums in 1982, you would be like, no.
Well, he co-wrote some songs with that guy Philip Bailey too, didn't he?
Yeah.
Phil Collins.
Easy Lover.
Yeah.
Have
you got any other Mr. Smith?
Got one more.
Forgotten
one more. Trevor Horn. Yes.
No,
one album.
I know who that guy is. Sure, man. Yeah.
But when you hear Tempest Fugit, yes, it does sound like John Anderson. Sounds
I have no idea what that song is. What is Tempest Fugit? What is that?
Lou, sing the riff.
And the moment I'm with you makes it good to be near you.
Is that from a Broadway show? Because I don't.
It's a great song. It's a great song.
That was all over classic rock radio.
Alan White plays amazingly on it. His drum fills are he does these time-defying drum fills. But it's also it was a top 10, I think, rock song in its own.
Really?
Or top 40. Yeah, it was a single. Mark, was that 1979 or 80?
80.
It was 1980. When that came out, I really liked that song. It was to me, it was Yes. That wasn't as ponderous, I thought, at the time as other Yes. It wasn't as cerebral.
Right.
Yeah.
It still had some unique Yes sound to it, but it was a rock pop single.
Yep.
Casey
And-
Kasem, fucking Ponders, fucking
Right.
Ponders.
Ponderous. That's right. I
And-
think Tempest Future was a prelude to 90125 in a sense where they learned they could write a commercial pop song.
Right. So
Yeah,
they came.
yeah.
So Trevor
That
Horn
was a
came.
huge hit, man.
Trevor
Oh,
Horn
it
came
was
into the
ridiculous.
band,
Yeah.
having recorded "Video Kills the Radio Star" as part of the Buggles. He did that,
Right.
and then he went into Yes. He did the tour. The tour was a disaster. They were booing him. The fans weren't ready for another singer. So when he did 90125, he just produced it. He became so there was no hard feelings. He stayed with the band.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, who was the other guy in the Buggles, and what became of him?
Jeff Downs. He's
that guy. Shit,
Yeah.
man. He
Yeah,
was in
he joined
Asia
the-
or something, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He's the one who started Asia, and now he's still with Yes. He's back with them, and he did Asia
And
till
Crimson.
John Wetton died. He had 2 bands going. You know,
So these guys, the Buggles, that had the first video ever played, right, are these
The
phenomenal,
first-
talented people, right?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
The first video on MTV.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Now, Trevor Horn became one of the biggest producers of the 80s and 90s. Though this guy has an incredible production resume.
Yeah.
Mark,
Absolutely.
can I add a forgotten singer?
Yeah, please.
David Palmer from Steely Dan. He sang "Dirty Work."
Yes, that's right.
A good singer. A good singer. He's on the first record, the first 2 records, maybe.
First 2, yeah.
Yeah.
May I say, can I cut in, Lou?
Sure, go for it.
I recently I was watching Midnight Special, Burt Sugarman's Midnight Special from 1973.
DVDs somewhere.
And Steely Dan was one of the guests.
Oh, wow.
And they played, they may have played Ricky Don't Lose That Number, but the second song they played near the end of the show was Everlasting Since You Were 17 and all the time I've known you.
Reeling in the years.
Reeling in the years. They were fucking good.
Yeah.
They were fucking good.
Yeah.
But the thing was, the direction that I saw was poor because they were showing the other guitar player with the telly,
right,
while Jeff Skunk Baxter is playing a Stratocaster, and he's the guy actually doing the lead guitar in the middle of the great lead guitar part in the middle of the song. But the camera was on the other guy who was just strumming rhythm then. It's like, dude, you got to get this right, man, But it was 1973, they figured that out. Yep.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of those videos too. Like, I saw America on the video, and they're focusing on the wrong person. There's probably 3 cameras going, but the editing and the direction were just
it's the direction. That's the direction. Yeah. Camera 1, camera 2, let's meet the wonders. That's time to meet. Oh, scary. Lenny, good looking kid.
You're scaring the children.
Oneaters.
Go ahead, Mark. Sorry.
Yeah,
well, we're going down these side roads, man. That's what we do, right? This is the Music Relish show, right?
That's all fun.
They're never the Wonders, Perry. They're the Oneaters. Remember that.
It's all good.
That's right. The one hit Oneaters. So we wrapped up.
Yeah.
How about Cleveland?
The Cleveland show?
How fast can we pan out of this? So I guess have we wrapped up?
Yeah, I have no more.
Mark, that was really good. Some of those names are hysterical. Like, you're making that up.
Yeah, real. Come on, man. There was a guy after
Jim Smith was the lead singer in Led Zeppelin for 3 months.
Did you
there
know
was
a guy
after
named...
this? That's like saying Ringo was sick and they had another drummer fill in for the Beatles. Wait, that really happened? Didn't that really happen?
It did. That was Christy McNichol. That was the drummer.
Christy McNichol. Yeah, Jimmy McNichol.
Peter Griffin sang for Van Halen one day because Sammy was sick up in Rhode Island, Pawtucket.
Why can't this be love? Bibbidi bobbidi boop. So now, when Jimmy McNichol filled in for Ringo on a tour, what was Ringo's physical ailment? What happened to Ringo? Why he had to?
He was eating too much toast and beans in the morning, and he
had an operation. What was the operation?
Oh, I have no idea.
Gallbladder.
Appendectomy.
Oh, okay.
Beatle trivia.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of that,
how about some trivia?
You want to watch a clip of George Harrison falling on his face?
Okay, so now this is for people who watch us on Spotify and YouTube, because otherwise you can't do it.
Let's watch this. Watch George.
I can be the narrator.
You have to have two arms. If you're running full tilt, you got to have two arms out. Otherwise, you're going to fall flat on your fucking face. Right? There he goes. Boom.
There goes Ringo.
It's like the Tour de France. They all go falling down.
They both bit it.
Boom. But he had his hands in his pocket, man. You can't balance
move.
yourself if you don't have your hand in your pocket.
No.
Right?
It's face on the pavement, face on asphalt.
Oof.
Yeah.
Ow.
I've got a little story
I fell into a beer cooler without putting my hands up in 2014, and believe me, sometimes there is no time.
What do you mean you fell into a beer cooler? What?
I was working at it was Green Life Grocery, and we had beer cases, solid cases stacked in front of the beer cooler. I was standing on the solid cases, fixing a shelf. The rule was, if you break a case up, take that case off the stack. So a customer came and took a whole case of beer off at the end. Went to another department, broke it open, and left the empty box. One of the girls in another department filled the empty box. She put the box back together, put it at the end, and didn't tell me. As I'm walking through, I stepped in it, went face down. I saw the video. I smashed all my front teeth in half, lacerated my jaw.
Whoa.
This was in
video. Somebody had their cell phone out and was videotaping.
No. We had the cameras at the store going. It was there was the security cameras.
Can you download that? We'll use it on the show.
We'd have
Come on, man.
It's horrible. I looked like a cat diving into a corner for a mouse because I didn't put my hands up. I went down face first on my knee, but I got up immediately and ran to the office. But we looked back at it, and
you went down like George Harrison in the beginning of A Hard Day's Night.
It was bad. It was an instantaneous. Here we go. Here's Lou going in front of the beer cooler, fucking down. Oh, that was a mess. I could have fractured my skull. I was messed up.
Yeah. Yeah, we're laughing. We suck. We shouldn't laugh.
Things got
sounds
better
when you're describing it. It sounds funny.
Oh, but it's funny because the next weekend after I had to get repaired, you remember Martin Pusser, Perry? My
I do. I met him
department
a few times.
my buddy Martin.
Yeah.
We went because
good guy from North
good guy.
Carolina.
He goes, yep. He's from Charlotte, North Carolina. He goes, dude, you got to look at this video. I went. I'm like, oh my god! It was just from a distance. I went down. Like, in my head was terrible. It was horrible.
Well, I want to talk. So can I cut in?
We have to move on. We have to move on.
We have to move on, right? Hey, Lou, does this guitar look familiar to you? Look at that, Lou.
That is a Rickenbacker. For those that don't have video, it's a Rickenbacker.
It's a Rickenbacker 340. Yeah, with 340/3. They had the 340/2, which two pickups. 340/3 had three pickups. Yeah,
that was a guitar you had when we first started hanging out making music.
That was the guitar. Yep, there it is. Yeah, and it can be loud, it can be jangly, it can be rocking, it can be soft. Because it's a semi-hollow guitar. Yep.
The Rickenbacker has a great history in rock and roll. Also as a bass guitar.
Oh yeah.
Chris Squire.
Chris Squire, Paul McCartney, right, Mark? I mean, Geddy Lee.
Geddy Lee, yeah.
That's
so
enough.
Can I talk about a little bit about Grand Funk Railroad?
Were they a rock band?
They were a Grand Funk Railroad they were from Michigan. They were from Flint, Michigan, I believe. Where the air is clean and the water is clean.
And nobody's nervous.
And we've all heard about Terry Knight, their manager, right? There was a band.
Tell us.
There was a band on Capitol Records called Terry Knight and the Pack. That was the group.
He was a musician.
He's a musician.
Oh, okay.
In that band, Terry Knight and the Pack were Don Brewer and Mark Farner.
Don Brewer being the drummer and vocalist in Grand Funk Railroad.
Yep.
Mark Farner being the guitarist, vocalist in Grand Funk Railroad.
Grand Funk Railroad. So after this had stopped, these are young guys. Mark Farner was 19 years old. So what they did was, in 1969, the band signed a contract with Terry Knight. Mark Farner had to have permission from his mother to sign the contract, because you had to be 21 or whatever it was, and back then. So they signed a contract. So they signed a contract with Terry Knight for Knight, Knight Productions, or whatever it was called, and that was it. And so what happened was that on this deal, the band would get 6% royalties on album sales each, 6%. And Terry Knight, he was also their manager, their producer. He got 16% from the album sales.
All right.
Sign on a dotted line.
Yep.
Chunk of pie. It's a big chunk of pie, man.
And they started selling records right away. I'm getting closer to my, right. They had some big hits, right? So they needed a tax shelter. So they came up. They said they started GFR, Grand Funk Railroad Enterprises, and they needed a tax shelter. So they decided. Well, Terry Knight probably decided to put them in White Shield Oil and Gas, a company they invested in now.
Offshore?
I don't know. But in this tax shelter company that they invested in, each band member would have 24% ownership of this. Knight would have 21%, and the lawyers would have the extra 7%. So right now it's getting really complicated now for a 19-year-old and a 20-year-old and 21-year-old.
They're also artists, and artists are not known for being business people.
Right. Yep.
We'll take care of you. Yeah.
Yeah. You can trust me.
Bend
so
over.
Mark. So what were you saying, Mark?
No, I didn't say anything.
So Mark Foreigner decides to look into this. So he decides to look into Knight's production contract with Capitol Records. And it turns out like he was getting 16%. Don Brewer says, I thought you were getting 2%. I thought you were getting 2%. So like, oh boy, And it turns out, what were you saying?
A fractious meeting ensued.
It eventually, yeah. But now Terry Knight he's their manager also. As their manager, he gets an additional 20%. As their manager. Like, dude.
He's getting half of what they make at this point.
He's getting pretty much. Yeah. It's interesting you say that. Yep.
That's a worse contract than John Fogerty signed.
It's got, and as far as music publishing, the songwriters are really Mark Foreigner and Don Brewer. Terry Knight gets 50% of that. Like, oh, guys, man,
Did they not have lawyers? Did they? I mean, come on.
He was 19. He asked permission for his mother to sign the contract.
If that was my kid, I'd be like, I'm getting you a lawyer, an agent, something. I would act as your agent, but it's an old story. But
you would now. But in 1968, you might not.
Nice,
right?
Hey.
Yeah.
That sucks, and especially during their heyday. The heyday.
So the band held, because they had a pretty big show at Shea Stadium. They sold out. There was 55,000 people at Shea Stadium.
Named after the famous Cuban revolutionary Shea Stadium.
Shea Stadium. So the band plays at, the band held a meeting in New York City, and they were viewing the film of Shea Stadium because it was going to be made into a documentary or one of those, those films that they did. And so they're wondering what happened to the money. What happened to the money that we got paid for Shea Stadium? Right? I mean, if the Beatles got $160,000 in 1965, 5 years later, Grand Funk, I'm sure, got so they were really like, they're getting a runaround now. Where's the money? What happened with the money? So Don Brewer calls up John Eastman, the guy who Paul wanted to handle the Beatles' legal affairs.
John Eastman was either the father or brother of Linda Eastman.
He's the brother-in-law. It's Paul's brother-in-law.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So he's the son of Lee Eastman, I think.
Yes. Yep. Right.
Not of the Eastman Kodak fortune, but of the Eastman investing. It was like banking or something. Big money. Yeah.
Not the Eastman Kodak camera people, not the film and camera people. Right.
Even more big.
So of course, they filed a lawsuit. Yeah. Now, so Lee Eastman, I guess, was or John Eastman was helping them, and they filed a lawsuit and said that the band was defrauded and beguiled into signing an unfair contract.
Beguiled.
I've
never heard that.
An Eastwood movie?
Well, so the band said
the beguiled, yeah.
they were defrauded and beguiled into signing an unfair contract, and he was misappropriating funds also, so they sued him for. So Grand Funk is now suing Terry Knight for $8 million.
Beguiled means hookers. They were plied with drugs and women. Beguiled.
Sweet Connie, she's doing her act. Right?
Wow. Beguiled sounds like that's something David Geffen did to like Don Henley, you know. Like when Don Henley re-signed with Geffen, you know, if you fuck me once, shame on you. You fuck me twice, shame on me. Interesting.
Yeah, but Geffen just went,
I never heard the term beguiling used. Like that's like seduction. Interesting.
So Terry Knight countersues the band now for breach of contract, for damaging his professional reputation, financial and emotional distress, and he sues them for $15 million now.
Jeez.
Like
ugly.
So each side was doing press releases saying, you know, this is this and that is that, and finally a magistrate had to say stop doing this, stop trying the case in the press. Stop it, guys.
Stop taxing the court system with this.
It got to that
skullduggery.
point. Yeah.
God.
Yep. So now
I'm glad I'm not successful as a musician.
So it gets much worse. It gets much worse.
Star.
Lou, it gets Mark. It gets much worse.
Does it really? Okay.
Oh,
Continue,
it gets much
please.
worse.
Please.
So now Terry Knight says that the GFR name is owned by Grand Funk Railroad Enterprises, and I am the head of Grand Funk Railroad Enterprises.
There you go.
So he says now anybody using that name does so at their own peril. Like, oh boy.
Ooh.
You know?
I'll call Morris Lee and some of those Roulette Records boys.
And of course, the band claimed in the press that they own the name Grand Funk Railroad, and they will defend anyone who uses that name, because now it gets tricky, because now, excuse me, now if they're going on a tour, the promoter could get sued for using the Grand Funk Railroad name.
Right.
Right?
Right. Now, I have a question. When they did that Shea Stadium show, who was the promoter? Sid Bernstein? Or
I don't know.
I'm sure he got a huge slice of that pie as well. Not only did Terry Knight.
They didn't see the money. Yep.
Yeah.
So, like I said, the federal magistrate told them, let's stop trying the case, you know, in the and then they were they were spying on each other. They were phone tapping and all this,
Watergate.
Really?
Yeah.
Was Daddy G Gordon Liddy? Was he one of the phone tappers in this?
But so they were now Grand Funk. Now they scheduled to go on a 35-city tour.
Now
the tour was going to end at Madison Square Garden in New York City. So what they did was they got a new manager. They dumped fucking Terry Knight, and they got a guy named Anthony Cavalieri. Got the same last name as Felix Cavalieri from the Rascals.
Trouble.
I don't know him. He was 27. Now at this point now, Mark Farner was 23 years old. Can you imagine going through all this
No.
He's 23. The other two guys, Don and Mel in Grand Funk, are 24 years old. And they're going through all these legal battles like you would not believe. So the band did an audit. They had an audit done, and each of the band members, all three of them, were worth $200,000 each. That's it. After 3 years.
Not much at all.
And Terry Knight is a multimillionaire.
Yeah.
He's a millionaire. Yeah. So Terry Knight claims in the press, he goes, it will cost them everything. And GFR, they claim that, the GFR fans referred to Terry Knight as Terry the Scumbag Knight.
No. Good.
Yeah,
Gives the business a bad name, you know.
Terry the Scumbag Knight is what they refer to him as. But
Scoundrel.
it gets worse. It gets worse, guys.
It gets even worse.
It gets
Oh, no.
worse than this.
Wait, it gets better.
It
Wait,
gets
no,
worse.
I don't feel like washing my hands anymore. I feel like taking a hot shower with a wire brush now and some lava
So,
soap. This is disgusting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Here's where the band made a mistake.
Gotcha,
They
man.
decided to break their contract with Terry Knight, right?
Yeah.
They terminated it or whatever they had to do legally to get it off. There was only 3 months left on his contract.
Oh.
3 months left. So these guys, like, read something, guys. Read something. Get a lawyer.
Get a fucking lawyer,
something.
man. Yeah. Give it to your uncle to go over. Somebody. Your kids.
There were only 3 months left on the contract before they breached the contract by doing that.
Oh.
So they ended up paying him even more money. It was incredible.
Wow.
So finally, they settled the suit in 1974. And like I said, the band had to pay him even more money. And unfortunately, the only records that were selling, Grand Funk did railroads. They got a keyboard player, Craig Frost, I think it was.
Yeah.
And like their record sales kind of, hit the
Craig
skids.
Frost, later of Bob Seger's band.
That's right. And
Okay.
Don Brewer as well. He played with Seeger in the 80s.
Yeah. Yep. There's a connection there. But anyway, so in 1972, they finally they settled the contract. They finally settled dispute in 1974. But here's where it gets worse. In 1972, Terry Knight. Now they're on this tour. They're on this 30-something city tour. It's going to close at Madison Square Garden. Terry Knight has lawyers and the sheriff deputies show up at the gig to confiscate all the equipment, saying that they owe $1 million on this equipment.
Son of a bitch.
Unbelievable. So to stop a riot from happening, they let them finish the show at Madison Square Garden. Terry Knight was now going to sue the television company that was trying to film the Madison Square Garden performance and use it as a film or a documentary or whatever they were going to use it for. So to not have a riot, they let the show go on. After the show was over, they confiscated all the equipment. All gone.
Took it even all. Farner's guitars, all his guitars and everything? I
don't know about the guitars, but the amps and the sound system and everything were theirs. And, so, yeah, unbelievable.
Imagine playing a gig at Madison Square Garden. You, as a performer, as an artist, you've got to be pure. You got to keep your mind clear. You got to be playing, knowing all these people are paid to come see you, and you care about what you do, but knowing that afterwards you're screwed. You're totally screwed.
Unbelievable.
I'm not the biggest fan of Grand Funk. I mean, they got some good songs.
Neither am I. But they had some good
story.
Songs. Yeah.
But this is a serious case of a serious injustice.
Well, and even that, Lou. Add to that, you're about to go on stage alone. Just say you're successful, no problems. The nervousness of going on stage in front of a sold-out arena, and all that.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, like I said, after the show was over, they confiscated all the equipment and said you owe $1 million. Like, so in other words, Terry Knight owned the equipment through the Grand Funk Enterprises or, whatever it was. Well, anyway, in 2004, Terry Knight was stabbed to death by his daughter's boyfriend. And that's how it ended.
At the age of 61.
Yeah, but Perry.
At the age of...
Can I throw something in there?
I just looked up on Wikipedia. I just looked up Terry Knight. I was like, is he alive or gone? So, on November 1st, 2004, he was murdered at the age of 61. This is from Wikipedia. He was stabbed multiple times by his teenage daughter's boyfriend, Donald A. Flair, in their shared apartment in Temple, Texas, after he tried to intercede in an argument over the boyfriend's use of meth. Well, you know something? You live by the sword, you die by the sword.
But you know what? Back up one paragraph in that. And after the court actions, he was dropped from Capitol and he started his own label, Brown Bag Records. That's a good name. Released a few albums. Then he was hanging out racing cars with Paul Newman. And he became addicted
Wow.
to cocaine, which consumed him. By the 80s, he had straightened himself out, settling in Yuma, Arizona with his daughter. He melded into the community, working in advertising sales for a weekly newspaper. That sounds like the end of Goodfellas.
Right.
It's like all of a sudden he was in suburbia.
But they
Enjoy,
found out
enjoy
that
your egg noodles and ketchup there, buddy.
they never signed with Capitol Records. They signed with Terry Knight on Knight Productions, and
Yeah.
he signed the contract with Capitol Records.
Therefore,
So their names
earning.
are not on a contract with Capitol Records. So he got 50% of their publishing. They were getting 6% on record sales. He was getting 16%.
Yeah.
Then he was getting 20% on top of that as their manager, and 50% of their publishing. So, like, yeah, he made so much more money than them. And
Yeah.
I would think in unspoken truths, I bet you he's an example. When people are in the music business,
Yeah.
above many, that's something where people know not to avoid that. I think that type of, from what I
Yeah.
see, that type of manager, that type of rip-off artist, Karma bit him on the ass big time. Karma took a
Yeah.
giant chunk out of both of his cheeks.
Yeah.
Good riddance. I mean,
Well,
that's fucked up.
I'll
That's
go
bad.
into future. I'll go into Badfinger, another story about signing with somebody who signed with.
So Per, you had a couple of Badfinger records, right? Or you had one or
I
two.
had a lot of them. Yeah.
They had a song it was a ballad called Tuesday Something. I heard it this morning. I never heard it before.
Yeah. Sweet Tuesday morning.
Sweet Tuesday morning. What a beautiful
on your
song.
smile.
Dude, I never heard
Love
it before
is
until
the
today.
answer you gave me. That's a great song. Yeah.
There you go. It really is. I would not have known it was Badfinger. It was great.
Yeah.
Great song.
The guy, by the way, they wrote "Without You" that Harry Nilsson had that smash hit with.
Yeah. Yep.
But they never saw any money from it, so that'll be a future depressing story that I'll go into.
Well, no, yeah. This was a good one, but we always talk about doing, the rock and roll, the dark side of rock and roll, and that's part of it.
The macabre. Yeah,
Bobby Fuller. Yeah. Yep.
And I'm amazed at some of these artists who go through all this shit and they can still write music, because it does drain the artistic values out of something.
The inspiration.
Well, it quells
your
your
muse.
creativity. Yeah. Yep.
Oh, of course.
When you're
We have studio time at 2:00, but at 1:00 we have to give a deposition at the magistrate's office. It's like, I mean, terrible.
Yeah.
Interesting story. Interesting story, though. Yeah.
That was.
Where do we want to go now, guys?
Can we go to Happy
closing
Land?
in on an hour already? Wow.
You want to do something upbeat, Lou? What do you want?
How about some trivia? How about some multiple choice? Fluff? You guys want some fluff? You want some cotton candy?
I want some. Yeah.
I'm gonna
I
twirl
want some
my
candy
felt tip
floss.
pen.
Yeah.
How about some mind jello?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I was reading just the Wikipedia rabbit holes. I stumbled across Neil Peart, and realizing how much I miss him, and what a great drummer.
Yeah. Yep.
Neil. Yeah. So this is Rush middle name trivia, multiple choice.
Oh, okay.
Right. Okay. So, what was Neil Peart's middle name? Was it A. Elwood, B. Bartholomew, or C. Royston?
I think it was Bartholomew. I think he's Neil Bartholomew Peart.
Okay. Mark Smith.
I was going to go with Bartholomew, but I'm going to go with Royston.
Both of you are wrong. It is Elwood. Neil Elwood Peart. Yeah.
Wow. Elwood Blues Band.
Bow, 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 bow. Rubber biscuit. Okay.
Wow.
Question number 2. What is Geddy Lee's middle name? Is it A. Aaron, B. Michael, or C. Lee?
I think it's Aaron because he's Jewish.
Okay. Mark, you got it. Is C. It's Geddy Lee Weinrib is his full name. Okay. What is Alex question number 3. What is Alex Lifeson's middle? What is Alex Lifeson's middle name? Is it A. Ivan, B. Ninad, or C. Zelko?
I think it's Ivan.
I'm going to go with Ninad.
Neither. He has no middle name. It's a trick question.
Well,
was a trick question.
Come on,
fair.
Now he's of Serbian. He's of Serbian descent. His parents were Serbian immigrants. His name is like Alexander. I can't pronounce the last name. I have to look at it.
Yeah.
Radovanovic. Yeah.
No.
Like that. Yeah.
But okay, I gotcha. Okay. The last question. Of the members of Rush, who is the oldest member? Neil Peart, Alex Lifeson, or Geddy Lee? Who's the oldest member?
I think Neil Peart was the oldest member.
Okay, Paris says Neil Peart, Mark Smith.
I'm going with Neil Peart too.
You are both correct. He was born in
Because
1952.
Getty and
I
Alex
think.
went to high school together.
Exactly. I think they were born in 1953.
Okay.
All right.
How old was
Excellent.
he when he passed?
67.
Dang.
Yeah.
Dang.
Great drummer.
Still,
I've got some random. You want to do some random relish?
Sure.
I would love to.
I mean, I have some trivia, but
didn't you write a book called The Randomness of Relish?
I did, yeah.
New York
Well,
Times bestseller.
we were talking the other week, and you were talking about we were on the radio show, and you were talking about I said, Lou, how screwed up can you sum up? Well, you're like, oh, I'll put some
Ketchup on it.
Put some ketchup on it, and I'll put on yours. I used,
some tartar sauce.
Tartar sauce. I'm like, why didn't you say relish? Why didn't you use relish on
that was a long
as
time
a
ago.
condiment?
I will from now on. Now the question is it sweet relish or my favorite dill relish? Mark, you turn me on. I've never had relish on a hot dog until I spoke to Mark Smith because Mark said there's nothing like it. Yeah. So I was at the grocery store and I saw sweet relish, which I've seen all my life. I saw dill relish. I like the flavor of dill. Yeah. I bought the dill relish, so not a hot dog goes by where I don't.
Man, you're great. Yeah,
I'll try sweet sometime. Anyway, but
I've
from
never
now
had
on, Perry,
dill. I'm going to try dill relish.
It's so good. Yeah. From now on, Perry, when you come to record, I will put there will be some relish.
Hey, we're coming down, man. We're coming down, man. Yeah,
yeah.
Our friend Simon Hussein is also someone who likes many a condiment put on his voice.
And we'll have to say hello to Scott McLean and our, he's a member of Rage Against the Cafe. So, we'll be working on an EP for that side project, right? How go ahead, Lou.
Rage Against the Cafe coming to a little bistro in Asheville soon by you.
With hot coffee.
Be prepared.
So how country music, contemporary country music is lame. Lame.
I love it. I love it. Well,
Tom Waits has a quote.
Trucks and beer and titties and stuff.
Right. Tom Waits has a quote where he says, he goes, I could eat alphabet soup and shit better lyrics than those.
I love it.
I have a country band. It's called Lou Colicchio and the Truck Nuts. I could eat alphabet soup and shit better lyrics.
Shit better lyrics.
Don't you wish you thought of that?
And what about Mark? You wanted to talk about that Ed Sheeran. Like, I am glad, and I told you that Ed Sheeran was going to win this lawsuit.
Too. I knew he was going to say
Perry, I thought you were leading to something with that lead in. I guess
no.
That was just a punchline.
That was that random relish, man. That was just a stray little comment from Tom Waits. That's all.
That's a classic, man. That's up there. That's in the lore.
But Ed Sheeran won that lawsuit, and he had to win the lawsuit, right?
Thank God he did, because if he lost that lawsuit, nobody would be able to write a song anymore. We only have 4 chords if we're going to write pop music, right?
And the truth.
So, yeah.
So, it's like, again, the onus is prove that the original song was unique enough to say this copied it. And when you compare them, there's a million songs that sound like that Ed Sheeran song. And he didn't copy any of those other songs.
Yeah.
It's like,
here's a case in point, guys. And Lou and I have discussed this in the past. I can't live if living is without you. Mama just killed a man. Same chords, same time signature, same everything.
Perry, your voice just gives me goosebumps.
Don't speak. I want to live forever. Fame. We're going to learn how to fly. Fame.
Right. Yep. Yep.
I mean, there are similarities, but didn't Ed Sheeran win a second lawsuit?
I don't know.
Yeah, he did. I don't know if it was for the same song, but I saw recently there was another lawsuit that he won. So, like, give the guy a break, knock it off.
Just like with Taylor Swift, he writes his own songs. Give him a pass. I do find it ironic that he was in that movie where the guy goes into an alternate universe where there was no band, the Beatles, and he comes from this universe, and he has all the Beatles songs, and he gets big. Ed Sheeran's in that alternate universe as Ed Sheeran. It's kind of ironic he made a movie about that.
Yeah.
It's a great movie, too.
Well, I like the fact that he plays a little guitar, because I got one of those, man. I got a Guild F20. A little thing, but with big sound. Yep.
Word is he's a really nice guy. Even people that hate him. My son doesn't like him, but he admitted. He said,
Yeah.
he's supposedly a really nice guy. So
I
Oh, and one
understand
other.
that he's a lot of looping, a lot of loops in his live performance. Where so your timing has to be right on. But you got those you got those molded earplugs. You get the whole thing.
And if
It's
I can
awesome.
just say before we move on, Warren Zevon not in the Rock and Roll fucking Hall of Fame. Like, what is with
yeah.
you people?
yeah,
You know?
yeah.
Yeah. Who did he piss off? Who is he not popular with?
Jimmy Iovine.
Did Jimmy Iovine produce anything he did?
No, he wouldn't do that. 'Cause it
I
wouldn't
don't
be a
know.
hit. He only produced hits.
Yeah, really.
I shouldn't
I
say
don't know.
that,
But I mean, seriously, Warren Zevon not elected or not,
he'll get his
nominated, but not inducted into the Rock and Roll. Seriously?
He'll get
Really?
At least,
He'll get it.
but put him in the Heavy Metal Hall of Fame just to get him in, like Jethro Tull.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep. So what do you guys want to do? You want to want to check out some album covers and review some album covers?
I do, but I think there's a cleanup on aisle 13.
Okay. All right.
Get to it before someone slips.
So, we talked about some album covers, like, you like that. Yeah, you wanted me to find that Yes album cover from Yesterday's, I think it was.
Yeah. It's
Right.
just
And
yeah.
I know one of your faves, and maybe Tom Spallone too, is Brain Salad Surgery.
Yeah, iconic.
I got a couple of iconic album covers we could look at, like Abbey Road and a few other, like some of those Led Zeppelin ones. They had cool album covers, man.
And even though we're not gonna before, we're waiting for Lou to show the covers, so just say it's like even though we're not gonna talk about the music on these albums, but growing up, we're lucky, Perry, that we were of a generation where we had vinyl because the covers to us go with the music, totally. Whereas nowadays, that's another problem with downloaded music. They download an album and they don't have an album cover to look at.
Well, that's what I appreciate about, like, say, Milk Crates and Turntables, Scott and Jack. Like, yeah, I know Scott. I know those guys have CDs and stuff, but the albums, like, they have milk crates full of albums or whatever it may be. But the artwork on the albums, the liner notes, the back covers. I mean, this is art.
Is this
the art
not?
is part of it.
Is this not iconic or
What's
what?
that? Harry Nilsson
in his bathrobe. That's a
what
great
is that?
album cover.
What
And
is
it's
that? Nilsson.
Yeah, and it's quadraphonic too.
What is that? Nilsson Schmilson?
Yep.
Do you have 4 speakers? Like, can you
No,
listen to it in
no,
quad?
I don't have a quadraphonic setup, but you can play a quadraphonic vinyl regular stereo. It's fine.
Yeah. So,
But even that,
well,
that's not even like it's just a photo. But see,
now
a
who
good
produced
example.
that? Was that Richard Perry or was that John Lennon? John Lennon produced the record for him. Usually it was Richard Perry, I think.
Produced by Richard Perry. Yeah.
Yeah. Who was Ringo's producer for a couple of records too, by the way.
Really.
Yeah.
And the back cover has an open refrigerator in the dead of night. Who hasn't
Yeah.
experienced that? Drunk, 2 a.m. What's there to eat? He's got a rose. Oh, I don't even know what's in that. Fuck. I see some kind of vodka bottle. I think, of course.
Well, yeah, Harry Nilsson. I mean, I saw a documentary on him, and they said he drank himself to death. Only it took 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you drink yourself to death with wine?
I'm sober, so I don't really know what to
Bless
say
you, my
about
son.
that.
Bless you. Nah,
In fact, I'm pouring more water right now into. I have a cup of water here. I have a bottle of water here.
So I was watching a BBC show this morning. Do you remember a show called Absolutely Fabulous?
Abfab, yeah.
Oh, talk about wine. 8 a.m. in the morning, they're at the office with their wine. Abfab, great show.
Yeah, so we'll do some album covers after this. Then I have some trivia, and Lou wants to talk about.
Yeah, let's make Frontiers Records next week because we're really going up in time. So we'll move Frontiers Records. I'll talk about it next week. All right.
Well, we'll see where we're going. What are we?
Yeah.
An hour and change into this?
Yeah. So in a prog mode, we've done 3 songs at 70 minutes.
Yeah, well, it must be.
And in Grateful Dead lore, it's 1 song. So
Yeah. Lou, we're going to look at some album covers, okay?
A time warp?
We're going to look at some album covers.
Let's do the time warp.
We have visuals on the album covers.
Yeah,
we do.
Okay. We lost Perry.
Ooh. I think for a reason. And if it's Sunday, it's pizza delivery.
Now you know what Perry's doing? He's putting on his costume. He's Peter Gabriel. He's putting on his
I think
a flower.
It's a flower. It's a flower head. Me, I'm just a lawnmower. I can tell by the way I walk.
Yeah,
album covers. Are these obscure album covers? Or are they
well known to many people? I think our audience would know them.
Okay.
I was telling Perry, I said, even though we're not going to talk the music with these, they were just like, we're lucky, our generation. You and I and Perry we had albums, and the covers were linked directly to the music for us. And nowadays, people that download, they don't. There's no artistic merit in album covers, and
there's no obvious visual attached to it. Also, a lot of those albums have the lyrics attached. So, Born to Run. When I had the Born to Run copy, I could read the lyrics because, when I watch Spotify, because YouTube I can't get it. I have the lyrics on because it's a lot to absorb when you're either in transit or stuff. But it actually helps.
It depends on where your head's at, though, too. If you got headphones on, if you're walking around doing things, for instance, Mark, this is like, come on, what is this, guys? What is that?
Yeah.
Well,
now, right above the ELP logo, the bar up to a below her chin was a male organ that they airbrushed out. H.R. Geiger just went too far with
it. I never noticed that.
Are you saying they put a male liver on there?
Yes. No, a pancreas.
That's fucked up. A pancreas.
Yeah,
okay. Well, that's
and by the way, that was designed by H.R. Geiger, who designed the alien in Alien.
That's right.
He's a sick artist.
He invented the Geiger counter.
That's right.
Can I show you
radioactive?
Supergroups.
Supergroups. Yes, we need to do supergroups again. There's a whole bunch of them.
We also have to do on for a special show with the Great American Bubblegum Show.
Yes,
where,
yes, I love bubblegum rock.
I've got an album cover I always thought was a cool cover. This one coming up, I always thought was cool. It's just, I don't know, the artwork or the.
Okay, wait. So those before we'll do that, for those who are just listening, that was brain salad surgery.
That was brain salad surgery, and I'm putting up right now Machine Head by Deep Purple.
Oh yeah.
I always thought that was a cool. They out of focus, the distorted. The guy on the left looks like Yoko Ono.
He does. Is that Pacey? Is that Ian Pace? Maybe?
I think it's Ian Pace. Yeah,
I think it is.
And John Lord is the guy on the right.
He's melting. Right? He's melting into nuclear disaster.
Ian Gillan's in the center in the back, right?
In the back, right.
And that's Richie.
Richie Blackmore's in the front.
Evil looking.
And so, Glover's down below, right?
Wait, there's 4 people I can see.
Yeah. No, 5. You got John Lord on the right, then Roger Glover's right next to him.
I see blur.
So it's Yoko, Gillan, John Lord.
Richie Blackmore's a witch. This was a real precursor to grunge in a way. Like I could see in the 90s a grunge album looking like this, right?
Really?
Yeah. Definitely.
Classic mid-70s American rock and roll.
But the artwork is the cool thing, isn't it, sure. Man? Mark had said to me, he goes, "You got to get that Yes thing." Okay, I don't. He says there's a lady there or something.
Roger Dean goes dirty.
I can see her now.
Let's get that again. Hold on.
That's a magical cover. That's probably my favorite Roger Dean cover.
Where is that white thing in the middle is a girl?
Yes, it is. Her knees are bent up. Her legs are up. Her knees are pointing upward.
I see it. Yeah,
that black thing to the left could be a tattoo.
It's a butterfly. But it's covering the wrong part. So the record stores had to actually put a sticker. I heard.
Oh, you're kidding?
God.
Really?
The outrage. But this is the moral outrage.
This is one album where the Yesterdays up at the top is in a lighter yellow. They didn't use these yellow hues. This was very different for Roger Dean. It's very almost poppy, but it just.
Well, wasn't he in Loverboy at one point?
That's his brother Mike.
They play Dean guitars in Loverboy.
She's so young and hurt.
I've got one that I think is a classic album cover. I don't know how you guys
Vomiting
feel
Michael.
about it, but I think this is a classic album cover.
Oh yeah.
I don't think so. You're out of your mind. There's nothing wrong with your machine.
Out of
Perry.
your mind.
There's nothing
That's
wrong
not
with
the
your
first
machine.
time
Perry.
you've ever
There's
said
nothing wrong
that
with
to
your
me,
machine.
by the way.
We're actually, those listening, we're looking at the cover of Abbey Road.
Abbey
Bullshit.
Road with these four guys walking across the street, and
wait,
one
Perry.
of them who's dead. And,
Right. So
you know, like-
John
Two of them.
Lennon's the angel. Ringo is the funeral home guy, and then George Harrison's the gravedigger. Right? Is that
Yes,
not
he
the
is, yeah.
story
one
on
of
that?
them,
Yeah.
Ringo's the Undertaker. Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
Undertaker. Yeah.
And
Paul's the dead one.
And
He's
there's
he's
the
barefoot.
the Volkswagen there. The license plate is LMW, Linda McCartney, widow.
Oh my god! Yeah, isn't that great? That
by the
that's
way, the guy-
that is great though. That is fantastic.
The guy
That's
on
a
the
classic.
sidewalk.
That's a classic album cover, right?
Yeah.
You see the guy on the sidewalk by John's head, just staring at him. They
Yeah,
tracked
yeah.
him down and they
They
interviewed
found
him.
him, right? Yep.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And he was just like, yeah. He didn't even care that it was the Beatles. He wasn't really a Beatles fan.
Wow.
I've got another album cover here. And let's see about this one.
Yes.
Oh,
Now what's this is good. This is good artwork. This is
Yes,
good
it is.
artwork, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like MC Escher, actually.
How do you mean? Well, who was that?
He was the guy that did brain salad surgery. Or what was his name? No,
H.R. Geiger. MC
Geiger. No, it's the other.
The Geiger count.
Guggenheim, Rembrandt.
So what is this, Lou? This is Blue Oyster Cult's debut album?
Perry's got up on the screen the debut album by Blue Oyster Cult in 1972. If you look at it, it's a circle, and midway across, there's a nighttime sky, many, many stars, many planets.
Yeah.
There's the Chronos symbol in the distance. In the center of the horizon is the Chronos symbol of Blue Oyster Cult. If you're a BOC fan, it's on every album. You can't miss it.
Oh,
Eric Bloom
really?
had,
Really?
Eric Bloom's guitar in the early days, he had a guitar with that shape.
Yeah.
I don't know who made it. The beginning of it, the lower half of the horizon looks like a lattice work of indentations going down with like doors or something. I don't know what that
Window.
means.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But doors
Well,
or windows
it's,
marked
it,
out.
it's cool artwork, though.
Yeah, it looks
know,
like the
I-
entrance to many a studio apartment.
I didn't
Only
notice,
multiplied.
I
It's a
didn't notice
haunting.
any of
It's
that.
very haunting. It kind
You
of
know why I
like makes
didn't
me
notice
feel
that,
kind of
guys?
disturbed.
I'm an L7, man. I'm a square. I'm an L7.
We're talking four corners, man.
That's why I didn't notice that. Yeah.
Oh, baby, you're so square. I don't care.
Now here's one that I think is a cool
Perry,
cover.
Perry, this was the age of the album cover. So
Yeah.
when you're laying in your bed with your headphones on, with your stereo,
Yeah.
because your stereo had an 8-track or a cassette player and a turntable.
Yeah.
That was playing.
Yeah.
You were transported to a wonderful, wonderful world.
Now Mark
and you're
chose
still
this
there.
cover. Mark chose this cover. He said he thought it was cool. I thought it was friggin' lame. But let's see what it is.
Let's go to the video.
Come on, Perry.
That
That's
is
not
really
lame.
fucking
Lame. What the hell is that,
it's-
man? That's
totally
not
lame.
cool.
That is
That's
fucking
lame.
cool.
Who
That
ruined
is
the piano?
lame.
Who ruined that Steinway with snow?
Yeah,
It's
really.
Hollywood snow from the yeah. Come on, that is great.
Oh, it's that
classic.
spray stuff.
Oh, that
It's
is not
toxic.
so cool.
It's
You know, there
ruining
might
the
have been some
environment.
good songs on there, but the art, whoever chose
I
the art
loved it.
cover, like, nah, that's not cool.
Oh man, I'm a
The-
mountain
so-
guy. I can smell the crisp air. And it has like a symphonic tinge to it.
Ricola.
Yeah. Wait, I do this, so screw you. Don't put me in the green room.
No,
Oh,
man.
uh-oh.
about
All
that?
right,
do it.
I'm
You
out.
can't do it
All right,
here.
5
How about
seconds
this
in the
one?
green room.
Mark, you
Wait,
chose this
wait,
one.
hold on, Perry, hold on.
Yeah.
That album was Super Tramps. What was it called, Mark?
Even in the quietest moments.
Was that before Breakfast in America?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay. What year was
Breakfast-
that album? Do you know?
I think it was 77. If I'm not
So
mistaken.
breakfast and brunch in America was that 1970s? That was 79.
9, yeah.
79.
yeah.
The year I graduated high school. That's right. That was a big record my senior year of high school.
I love
Yeah,
the
I'm that
album, but
old.
I hate that album
Lame
cover.
album
I
cover,
hate it.
though.
The
Yeah.
Breakfast in America is garish. It just looks ugh, you know.
Yeah.
I used
It's
to go in like
American.
Sam Goody and see it, and I'd be like, ugh, you know, what the hell is that? You know?
I would say there was a conscious decision because the album's called Breakfast in America. And
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
have a tendency to go over the top.
True.
Yep. All right. How Mark
Even-
chose this one also.
Oh, it's
Oh,
it's
yeah.
so sublime. I mean,
This is what
I've
the Rolling Stones.
oh, this is Led Zeppelin 4,
Come
the
on.
Zoso album, and there's
The
so many
Firm.
articles on what this album cover means. And if you look at the whole
Yeah.
gatefold, aside from the inside, which is Stairway to Heaven,
Yeah.
when you turn it over, that's a wall, and on the back, the wall ends.
that
It's like a
was the cool
partially
thing,
demolished
man.
house.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
see these projects, like these tall apartment buildings in the distance. So
Yeah.
it's like modern clashing with this ancient stuff. It's just strange,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah, the guy with the sticks. No one ever
Yeah.
really explained what it was. I think it was just like hypnosis, or whoever designed it said, like, yeah, we got this. And they went, cool. Looks
The
good,
old guy with
you
a
know?
pile of sticks, right? And on his back.
It
Well,
looks like cover. It looks like the cover of a John Steinbeck novel.
Yeah.
It kind
But
of does, yeah.
if you open it up totally and look at both sides, it's obviously in an old house. So it's like everyone's been
Well-
in someone's grandma's house with weird pictures on the wall. And then
Yeah.
you see like modern civilization next to it, it's jarring,
But obviously we can't open it up here, but that was the great thing about the artwork. You open these
Yeah.
things up,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
There was so much to read. There were so many credits.
Absolutely.
That's how we learned the names of all these record producers, because
Yeah.
if you were so into it, once you read the lyrics, like what else is there?
Yeah.
Greg Khalidi
Right.
mastering, or Gus
Yeah.
Dudgeon producing,
And
mastered at
studios.
Sterling Stan.
Right.
Yeah.
But this
and
was
studios,
all,
Mark,
it was
yeah.
all encompassing. It was like, yeah, man, this is what albums are all about.
Right.
Open these things up, looking at the artwork, like here's another one,
Yeah.
in fact.
Why do those drums sound like shit? Oh, it's Roy Thomas Baker. Oh.
Yeah.
Disraeli Gears.
Disraeli
There you go.
Gears, Cream. Like, that's a cool cover, man, isn't it?
It is.
Amazing.
Absolutely.
Peter Max, I believe, right?
Was that Peter
Peter
Max?
Baker?
Kind of looks
Pete-
like
not
a
Pe-
Peter Max.
Peter
I think
Max,
so.
okay.
I think so. But not only was it a great album cover, it was a great album. It is a great album.
Yes.
It is a great album, yeah.
Yeah.
A great debut album, right?
Yeah. Clapton at his best, as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, after that, after
He-
Cream, it was all downhill. A lot of people say.
Except for Dark and the Dominoes. Okay, you got that one. Everything else has been like
Yeah, but-
a variation of a theme.
Yeah, but we're this is artwork. Is this like, these
Is
albums?
that a music critique?
The
Yeah.
artwork
All right,
is
guys.
like,
The
Go.
cover of that album is designed by Martin Sharp, Eric
Oh, wow.
Clapton's friend, who had contributed the lyrics to Tales of Brave Ulysses.
Cool. Now,
Very cool.
for those in TV land, what is the predominant color in the Cream Disraeli Gears record? What is the predominant color you see?
Purple.
To me, it's pink. I see pink,
Purple.
purple. Okay.
Lou's got a
Well,
point.
it depends on what they're watching it on too.
What are you taking?
Maybe it depends what color your eyes are.
Yeah. Well, I ever see this Creedence Clearwater album cover, Bayou Country. It was like out of focus. I think their brother, Bob Fogerty, was the photographer, in fact, of the band, and
Bob
he
Fogerty.
may have Bob Fogerty. Yeah,
He was also the lead singer in Journey in between albums with some other people.
he may have taken this. It looks like he zoomed in or out real quick and snapped it while he was zooming.
I can see a Rickenbacker.
You can see there's a story about John Fogerty's Rickenbacker. Yeah, man. He gave it away. He handed it. We talked about this on one of our old shows. He handed that to some audience member, and
Wow.
his wife tracked it down like 40 years later and surprised him for Christmas with it.
Now, ironically,
Very cool.
that album cover, everyone thinks it's in Bayou Country, but it was Northern California, right? That was photographed.
Yeah, they're from California. Yeah.
Yeah, but
They're
you look
from,
at
Bakersfield,
Yeah.
right? For the
But
most part,
you
the
know,
Bay
he's-
Area.
outside of Oakland. They live near Oakland, I think.
Ah.
John
Yeah, they're
Fogerty
from the
talked
Bay
about it.
Area. El Cerrito is where they're from. Yep.
But you hear Bayou Country, so you look at that and you go, "Oh my God, they're in the Bayou."
Yeah,
They're in,
and the
know,
guy
nope.
sounded like like he was from down there. He kind of sounded like Elmore James to me.
Yeah.
But I've got an album cover from Mark here now. Let's see what we think about this. I don't like it, but Lou, how do you feel? We'll see. Let's go.
Oh, iconic.
Okay, iconic.
It is iconic. Yeah.
Yes.
Is
Yeah.
that
And
their first album?
ironically-
Is that their debut?
So we're looking at the cover for Queen 2, but ironically, this was made iconic by the Bohemian Rhapsody video, but this
Yes.
was their second album. Bohemian Rhapsody was off Night at the Opera. This shows all of them, like you see them. It set the tone for their personalities to me. This is just like, I would love this on a tapestry. And Freddie with his fingers like that. This is great.
I would like it on a dinner plate.
Yeah.
And it's the four faces with black backgrounds. Their eyes are closed. They look like operatic death masks.
Yeah.
For Halloween, I'm going to get the Brian May wig. It's all white now, but I'm going to get the Brian May wig for Halloween. All right, so
that's called the Louis the 13th, only white.
Now, there's something about there's something to add on there. That album had a black side and a white side. The black side was side one, all composed by Freddie Mercury. The white side was all by Brian May. When you opened up the gate
the label
sleeve,
of the
the
label was black and white.
So Freddie Mercury's side one was the black side, and it was darker stuff. It was very progressive, actually. This album was a very different than the later stuff. Brian May's side was a little more, not popish at all, but it was a little more accessible. So when you opened up the gatefold sleeve, there was a picture of them with a white background dressed in white. So a lot of people don't know that, but that was the dividing thing between that album. That's what made it so good. But Roy Thomas Baker produced it.
So we have that. We have that, right? We have this Queen album. Then we have this.
Yes. It's a great album cover.
That's iconic too, in a sense, like
Ace Frehley is a silver fox in there. It's Kiss's first album.
It's Kiss's debut album. They're all in their makeup. They got the Spaceman, the Starman, I don't know what he is, Gene Simmons. I don't know what he is, but
the Antichrist.
The Antichrist, and then they have the cat.
Peter Criss,
cat, whatever.
Peter Criscuolo.
That was Ace Frehley's first. Like, he didn't keep that look. He changed for the next after that. So that's kind of a unique picture with the hair like that, and even the painting on his face is different than later. Yeah.
What was Paul's character? What was the
Starman?
He was Starman.
He was a Starman. So Ace was the alien.
He was the Spaceman. Yeah.
Right. Peter Criss was the cat, and Gene Simmons was the Antichrist.
The vampire. He was
the god of thunder.
Something like that. I don't. Yeah.
Okay.
But here's
Mark, by the way, our 17 subscribers. Mark does a killer Gene Simmons impersonation.
He does. Why don't you give him a little bit, Mark, and explain his album cover?
Give him a taste, Mark.
I can't do it. You know why I'm not going to do it, though? I'm not going to do it because you have to pay me. So I will do a subscriber channel on YouTube. You have to pay for the low price of $9.99. You will be able to hear me do my Gene Simmons.
Go fuck yourself.
Okay.
And just remember,
Mark.
Remember, guys, no musician enjoys playing music. They all do it for the money. Okay? Remember that.
Women are from Mars, men are from penis.
Let me know what you guys. I'm curious as to what you guys think about this album cover. Okay? Is it thumbs up or thumbs down?
Let me subscribe. It's what is it? We have to say
it's tomato soup.
No, it's Paul McCartney's
debut solo album. It's just called McCartney. Yeah,
that's McCartney. That's the McCartney.
Linda,
bullshit.
Of course, took the photo and looks like cherries.
How did she stand all the cherries up on end?
Yeah, she's a professional photographer, man. I don't know.
Kind of lame. It's kind of like the first Wings album where they're sitting over a pond on a tree limb or something. It's kind of lame.
So you guys
do you mean the Wings Wildlife, one of the worst albums in rock and roll?
Paul isn't known for his album covers. This album, you know what? You know it when you see it. You know it's Paul McCartney. It's iconic in that way, but I'm not impressed with it. It's kind of lame. Tomato soup.
All right. So how about this? We'll go to this.
I didn't recognize it either. So
okay,
thumbs down.
That's cool. How about this? We go to this before we go to the Clash. That's thumbs down, right?
Yeah, it was thumbs down.
How about this one?
Yes. Steal that blues music and make it your own and get all the money. Yes. No.
Elvis. Elvis.
Wait,
Classic.
come on, man. What is this, Air America? Stop it, Mark.
He stole all that music, man. He was the Hesh of his time. Now, seriously, that's iconic, and I know where this is going, Perry.
We know exactly where we're going. We're going with Paul Simonon, right?
Wait. Yes.
There it is.
But the point is, Paul Simonon got Elvis. Elvis in that crystalline period was great. He was great.
Yes.
He was an original. He was a rebel. He was a fucking punk.
That was RCA. I think he was on at that point, right?
MCA. I don't know.
I've got one. This is one of my favorite album covers.
Oh, by the way, just we went into, for the audio people, we went into Clash London Calling.
We went from Elvis's debut album with the pink and the green to the Clash London Calling, who has the same print and color scheme, only with Paul Simonon smashing one of his bass guitars. Yep.
I got a major technical problem. I can't get my wine bottle back in the bag.
You all know what it is. But here's a Led Zeppelin album cover, which I always thought was a cool cover.
Oh, yes.
House of the Holy?
And
House
that was
of the
two,
Holy,
that was two children, brother and sister, that were photographed over and over.
Right,
and that rock formation is in Ireland. I forget.
I have a picture. I have a picture I took at Douglas Falls in North Carolina where it doubled the image. You've seen the picture, Perry. You said it was an album cover. It looks a lot like that. Where Louis and my stepson were like in the distance under a waterfall, all these rocks around, and it doubled it.
You have it?
I do.
Send it to me, man. We'll use
I will.
We'll use it for Rage Against the Cafe.
Sure.
You know?
No, we're going to make this happen. Album cover. The Rage Against Cafe is going to be a grungy, high intensity photo.
No, we don't know what it's going to be, because I'll come up with one thing, you'll come up with one thing, Lou will come up with one thing, and Scott McLean will come up with one thing.
Yeah, but you know what it's going to be?
You know,
it's going to be Lou's face in high contrast, like just pissed off. That's what it's got to be.
Pissed off.
Because he's the reason we have Rage Against the Cafe.
Yeah.
How do you feel about this album cover, guys? How do you feel about this?
We went off on a tangent on that one.
I like this album a lot.
I think there's. This is Captain Fantastic.
I like the artwork a lot. I think it's.
This is Elton John, Captain Fantastic, and I feel like there's so much in this cover
and the
that
Brandberg
I
Cowboy.
haven't noticed. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
I'd love to know the stories behind all the little figures in there. I'm sure there's a lot of stories.
Yep. It's a very crowded album. Perry, do you know who did the album art?
I don't. Do you know?
Okay. I don't. But it's very mid-70s cartoon, fantasy, almost Conan the Barbarian.
Keep talking, guys.
It's almost like a Sergeant Pepper sort of thing or something. You know.
Well, sure. The whole thing is the lettering is very much in red. Elton John's got almost like a superhero mask on with his top hat, but that was a post. What was his big album? Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. That was a post record. This was before Rock of the Westies, where I think he kind of went astray. But I think this is the last great classic Elton John record.
Okay, the intricate cover art was designed by pop artist Alan Aldridge, drawing fantastic imagery from the Renaissance painting The Garden of Earthly Delights, one of my favorite paintings. Remember that painting?
Wow.
Yeah.
And a great song by XTC. XTC.
Yes. With the Phrygian bass lines.
Yeah.
Well, I've got another album cover that Mark chose, and I don't think it's that good, but he thinks.
Please, Perry, you don't like anything I like.
Jeez. Mark thinks it's fucking great, so here we go.
Oh, yeah, I know what this is. Yeah, that's fucking great. Trash. Just trashy. And it was their trashiest album. It's Foreigner Head Games with a girl sitting on a urinal, smearing her name and phone number off the wall.
And you told me she's actually scratching her name off of a wall.
Name and phone number, yeah. With toilet paper. That's punkish. It's Foreigner. That was probably their heaviest album. It's not heavy though, you know. Very, very basic, you know. But I think it's great. I noticed it when I saw it in the stores. I was like, whoa. So thumbs up or thumbs down.
What year did Head Games come out?
We've got one
79.
or two more before we move on.
Wait, I do have to say, in the Foreigner Head Games record, there are 3 visible public bathroom urinals. Okay.
And there's 4 crappers, right? 1, 2, 3, 4 crappers.
I can't clap. I can't see them. All I can see is okay.
I'm lost, man.
Prep.
Here.
You're looking at the same picture, Perry. There's three. She's sitting in a urinal. All right.
Yeah, I know. I just don't think it's a nice. I don't think it's a cool cover. I think it's lame.
Never meant to be nice.
I don't
it's
either.
meant to be jarring. I like it. Dirty
All
White
right, well,
Boys on that album.
Here's one. This is an iconic album cover.
Yes.
Scares
the shit out of you too.
So this is the Court of the Crimson King.
Yes.
Is this the cover? Am I right?
Yes, you are.
And
you can see tonsils.
Can you elaborate on it? Because I am not.
Barry Goodber, a friend of Peter and Dick the Roadie, was not an artist but a computer programmer. This was the only album cover he painted. Barry died in bed in February 1970 at the age of 24. The cover was as much a defining statement and a classic as the album. It's 69, kind of the psychedelic era. To me, it's like it's supposed to be a bad trip. Like there's no lovey-dovey in that. You know?
Yeah.
Now, I've read that on this record, they created prog. There was like some metal on there. There was some little bit of everything on there. Am I wrong?
They were a precursor to metal for sure.
Was this not considered the first prog record?
Yeah. Well, no. A lot of people say Sgt. Pepper.
No. I disagree. Yeah,
I agree with that.
It's a pop record.
No, it's a prog album. I disagree with you.
Pop.
It's definitely not prog.
Sgt. Pepper's prog.
Didn't invent prog. Yeah.
I think it's the first prog album. I told you we were going to have an argument tonight.
Wait, hold on. You think Sgt. Pepper is the first prog record?
Maybe not the first, but I put it as a prog album.
I think Sgt. Pepper's the worst Beatle record, by the way. Like the sound overall is just bad.
I think the sound is good. I think most of the songs are semi-strong, with a few exceptions. With a little help of my friends, Ringo had the hit on that record. With a little help of my friends, is pop. There's nothing.
You know what album I don't really like from the Beatles, and I wouldn't turn up, but Magical Mystery Tour to me is
Shabby Road.
Yeah,
Tragical History Tour.
Yeah.
Let it rot.
Prog album.
So on this cover
argument,
Mark, on this cover is
2 against 1.
Who was in the band at this point on this cover?
Greg Lake, Ian McDonald.
Greg Lake is the bass player singer.
Yeah, before ELP. Ian McDonald, who was later in Foreigner.
Yeah.
Robert Fripp on guitar, and I think it's Barry Giles on drums.
Michael Giles.
Michael
Giles.
Okay, yeah.
And
also
good drumming.
The prevalence of Mellotron on that album, it's all Robert Fripp playing it.
Yeah.
So he played, there's songs with no guitars. It's just Robert Fripp doing soundscapes, kind of precursor to Eno.
Yeah, like Eno and Daniel Lanois.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the second prog album after Magical Mystery.
I've got two more. Let's go.
No, Robert Fripp has a coffee at Starbucks called a Frappuccino.
Yes, he does. Oh wait, let me get my sound effect.
Yes. And if you buy one, him and his wife will come over and do a dance for you. Have you ever seen his wife do those YouTube?
Yes, I have.
I sure have.
Perry sent those to me.
I saw those
She's hanging out
videos. There. Yeah, man.
Very cool. Very cool. Eccentric.
This is. I find this an interesting cover, close to the edge.
Me too.
Because it's just. It doesn't have to have a lot of stuff, but it's just cool,
Well, it's close to the edge, and the cover is green, blending into black. But then again, if you were on the edge of the world, that's what you would see.
Yeah. But I remember when I was a kid, bubble riding. It's got bubble riding, which was cool. Remember that? Remember that, guys? Yes. Bubble riding. Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, you know what? By today's
Perry loves Susie on your notebook.
Yes.
By today's
Mark
standards,
loves Jane.
It's almost amateurish by today's standards when you look at it. It looks like someone in homeroom
Photoshop.
One more album cover. We've all discussed this in the past.
Black Sabbath's debut, Black Sabbath.
With that green Mark, you said you know who this person is. This green
the woman who did it,
or this green witch.
So she was a model. And they hired her, and it was a cold English morning. She said she was freezing, and she didn't know. Like No one knew
That's
who Black Sabbath
unusual, a
was.
cold English
Yeah.
morning.
Now they talk about
Damn.
they had a dry ice machine. I don't see the dry ice in there. Oh, below, like by
They
the
could have
wall.
created that fog
Yeah,
around her
yeah.
feet with it. Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah.
But you think about it, in England on a cold morning, they got a fog machine. It's like it's fucked up doing that. Very eerie. Just always unsettling. When I was a kid and I saw it, it kind of freaked me out. But the
I was in
woman is
England
just
for a
model.
week.
Yeah.
I went to England for like a week, and like some of those mornings in the middle of the country with the fog coming up, off the moors, off the bogs, whatever. It's like that. It's beautiful.
Wow, nice.
Stay off the bogs. Stay off the moors.
Well, that's it for the album covers.
Very good.
It was a cool little segment. We'll do that again. We'll look at some more album covers, right?
Thank you,
And,
Barry.
Right.
That was good.
And for those who listen, check us out on Spotify and YouTube. You can actually see the album covers if
Or
you've not heard of
Facebook.
them. And if or Facebook, and if our descriptions didn't match what we were saying, give it a watch.
yeah.
But if you don't see it on
Spotify,
Facebook, email Lou and Perry and say that lazy guy Mark didn't update the Facebook page.
Spotify. And by the way, we have a new email address. It's called musicrelishshow@gmail.com. Yeah.
We're a show now. We're a show.
We're a shoe.
Yep.
Professional show business comedy. Author. Bravissimo.
You're not worthy. We're
Can
not
you
worthy.
Stop clapping.
We're not worthy. Definitely. That's for sure.
So
Yes, we are.
I just want to talk a little bit about John Bonham because I know Lou wants to talk. We're going to talk in the future about some drummers, right, Lou? And
drummers
because,
and what
Lou,
happens when
word
you
on
get
the
older.
street is you're a drummer. You play drums. Is that true?
I'm a multi-instrumentalist, Barry.
Have I heard
That's
that?
right.
Have I heard
Yeah.
correctly? That Mark Smith tells me that Lou Colicchio plays drums.
That's
And
right.
I said, I don't know anything about that.
He
I
does.
saw it. I saw it through the window of the garage. He was playing drums.
Well, we're a friend of the fish. We like fish. We're a friend of the fish.
Yes, we do. Where's this leading to?
But I had this. I've been watching a thing about John Bonham, and "Presence" is one of my favorite Led Zeppelin records. It's like, and the song in particular called "Royal Orleans."
Right.
We had a discussion about what the song is
Yes.
about. And what do you guys hear that the song is about?
It's a very it's about debauchery in New Orleans, but it's a very Lou, you tell me if I'm right. I think it's a sublime rhythm that is like it would be hard for a drummer to play.
It's very shifty, like a lot of his stuff could be. It's apparently he's not known. Bonham was not known, I think, in retrospect, for his subtlety. Although the guy was just too powerful to not be not powerful, but there's subtlety in the power of his playing, like "Fool in the Rain," things like that. So I don't know what the song is about. I couldn't tell you, but the shifts in groove they're very earthy. But that's all I can really say. It's just, to me, it's almost like a study in rhythm shifting.
Well, why don't I play a little sample of what I'm talking about, and then we'll discuss it after it's done. Okay.
5 seconds tops.
It only
for
take a
Zeppelin.
few seconds. It only take a few seconds.
This is Zeppelin, yeah.
Here we go.
So good.
Yeah.
That's the one that goes la 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 la, yeah. Right?
Yep.
So you can hear he played the intro. Right?
But without the music, to me, it sounds like a New Orleans backline shuffle.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. And it was in New Orleans, right? That they
But given the fact that the guy could not help but just be a force on the kit, that's not saying he was a clubber or he was too heavy.
Right.
Unmistakable presence on the kit. What are you going to do? That's called distinction. You don't fight that. You run with it.
He actually
if it's a detraction, so be it.
He was actually virtuosic being a heavy hitter. Like if you've heard the solo drum track of "Fool in the Rain," that's amazing. And he's hitting heavy, but he's doing these little things. Like it's just amazing.
He's doing all the ghost notes, all the shuffling.
Yeah.
Ginger Baker saying, he had great technique, but couldn't swing a sack of shit. I don't know. I mean,
Right.
Led Zeppelin.
And
Led
it
Zeppelin.
didn't bug John Bonham one bit when he
Why
read
should it?
that.
Because
Yeah,
Led
yeah.
Zeppelin weren't meant to swing. He could. The guy could. I think we only heard him as Led Zeppelin, and maybe a few other assorted tracks, maybe some stuff with
Yeah.
Donovan. But John
Yeah.
Bonham doesn't have a wide discography beyond Led Zeppelin, so we don't really know
Yeah.
if he sat in with a jazz band. What he But I listen.
There's been
Yeah.
studies where like, yeah, man, he uses a funk beat. That's a funk beat.
Yeah, it was
So
totally
heated
funky.
a moaning.
Right. But now right now, if you took that beat, like we heard, and if you added, say, maybe Steve Cropper onto that, it would still have that beat, but it would have a different feel. Jimmy Page being the guitar player he is, John Bonham, John
That's a
Paul
good
Jones
point.
is not
That's a
Duck
good
Dunn.
point. Let's hear
So
it one more time.
yeah. And I see he played earwig drums.
He played earwigs. Yes,
He was endorsed by earwigs.
like
The same drums as Barry Wong. Barry Wong from the Ruddles. A big every once in a while, life hands you a great teacher. Barry Wong was mine.
And it's the Ruttles, not Ruddles. Ruttles.
Right. This is good. This is the
good.
Music Row show, people.
Lou, there's a couple of musicians brothers that you wanted to talk about, wasn't there?
Yeah, it's about an album from 1979. It's an obscurity that in the year 2012 got discovered in a big way. The album, I'll tell you, the artists there were two teenage boys from Fruitland, Washington State. They lived in the middle of evidently nowhere on a farm that their parents owned, a 1,600-acre farm. Their names were Donnie and Joe Emerson. Two teenage kids that played music without influence. They lived in an isolated part of the country. Their parents had a farm. They worked the farm. Their father recognized the talent they had. They were Donnie is a guitar player and songwriter and singer. His brother Joe is a drummer. So in 1979, they put out a record called Dreamin' Wild. They put it out meaning they recorded a record on their farm in a studio that their father had built for them for the sum of $100,000, which in 1978 is a lot of money.
Was a ton of money.
A ton of money.
Yeah.
So what he did was, they had the farm. They wrote the songs. The father was impressed by their talent and nurtured like any good father would. And he took a loan against a lot of acreage to make this recording studio and also an additional performance venue where they took an old barn and they made it into a stage with, it looked like Levon Helm's barn. But the problem was it was in the middle of orchard country in Fruitland, Washington. So I think in order to come for this gig, you'd have to travel far. Spokane was 75 miles away, where the brothers recorded a single, a 45, I don't know the name of it, before they put the album out. So in other words, it's a story of a parent nurturing, believing in his sons. So they recorded the album, and the thing is I haven't heard the album. I'd heard the song called Baby. I don't know if I heard it probably on college radio. Like the first time I heard REM's Radio for Europe, I was like, what the hell is that? I never heard that before. It's simple, but there's something here that it's just so stark and so pure. So the song called Baby, it's a love ballad written by a 17-year-old kid, a very talented kid. Donnie Emerson is a guitarist and the songwriter and the vocalist of this little duo, this brother duo. So the story goes that, the father financed the whole thing. They made the performance venue. They pressed 2,000 copies of this album in 1979, which must have cost a lot of money. They sold a handful. The remaining 2,000 end up like in the parents' basement or in their little rehearsal thing. I've seen the pictures of their performance venue. It's in the middle of a field in nowhere. I've never been to Washington State, but when they describe it, it's not unlike where I live in rural North Carolina, where the kids are they could be isolated, and you form these little you get very insulated.
Yeah.
I've been
So
to Washington
yes,
State. It's
okay.
massive. Yeah, yeah.
It's a big
Yeah.
state, and also for wine country, it's on a parallel with Bordeaux. So a lot of the wines from
But mainly
Washington State,
rural, though, right?
Good
So
mainly
wine.
rural. Yeah,
I,
it was an agricultural community.
you had mentioned this one time in the past on our old show
Yes,
where they lived on a 1,600-acre farm, and
yes, they
right,
did.
and yep,
Yeah. So by the time they pressed the record, they didn't promote it. It's a story of innocence. So anyway, so the parents had to sell a lot of the acreage, so it got reduced to 65 acres eventually, because the father, Don Emerson Sr., could not keep making these payments on a loan. He even said, I saw some documentaries about this record because it's an unknown treasure that has popped up. He said, a bank loan was easy to get in that time. You could actually, if you had a good credit, like decent credit, you could mortgage the farm. So anyway,
yeah,
long story short, they kept the farm. The farm, as of that documentary, is still going. The parents were still alive. Donnie Emerson made a career in music. Joe, the other brother, worked on the farm. That was his living. But the record, once it got buried, no one ever heard of it. So I think in the year, let's see what we got here.
it
In the
got
year 2000,
rediscovered somehow, right?
well, yeah, in the year 2012, some record collector was at an antique store, and he saw the album cover. The album cover is historical. It's the two of them in these like Elvis jumpsuits.
Oh
Um,
gosh,
it,
I wish
it,
you sent me a picture of the cover,
yeah,
man. We
I
could have
know, I
loaded
know.
it.
It would have been perfect, but yeah, I thought of this today, Perry, because my topic for today, meaning drummers who've acquired a certain age where they can't play
Yeah,
anymore, seem too depressing. So I'd rather go with something kind of naive and innocent.
yeah,
Um, anyway, so the album cover is like an Elvis jumpsuits. It's the two brothers. So this record collector, I think it's Robert Fleischman or something. Um, yeah, Jack Fleischer. He's a record collector. He was in an antique shop. He saw the record. He picked up. He paid $5 for it. He fell in love with it. There's a certain innocence to it. I listened to the record again
yeah,
today.
yep.
Um, so he started promoting it. So I don't know if he had a website or a podcast. So he was a kind of an evangelist for it. So in July in 2012, Ariel Pink, another artist, re-recorded the song "Baby" and had a hit with it in 2012. So this record from 1979 got a resurgence in 2012 by a really good cover of the song. It's a very romantic ballad. It's very pretty. Everyone out there, if you want to hear something before the digital technology that we sometimes
Yeah,
often
yep.
talk about, it was basically meant. It was pure. It was recorded on a 16 track. I'm sure it was tape, Perry.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
yeah, so they
In
recorded, and I think
'79, it was tape. It was
yeah,
2-inch tape. Yeah,
there
yeah,
are videos you can
yeah.
see of the Emerson brothers, Joe and Donnie Emerson, playing this.
Yep.
There's a bass player in one of the videos, so I don't know if they had additional help. But I saw some of the equipment that their father bought from them. Amongst them is a Moog synthesizer. So in 1978, that must have cost a ton of money.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the record itself, it's like 8 tracks. It's very interesting. Give it a listen to it. You can't go wrong. It's not great
So you're saying he sold off a lot of the acreage to pay
to repay the loan.
for the instruments that he believed in his sons
Yes, he did.
to
Yeah,
do this, right?
yeah. Repay the instruments and also the fact that the recording equipment in the building he built a performance. It's like a barn. He reconverted this barn
Yeah.
into a performance venue. So there's a
Kind
stage.
of like a roller rink, right?
Not well. Here's the deal. When I read it, thank you, Perry. So when I read the story, I said it reminds me of me and my younger brother, where around the same time in 1979 we started playing music. My father's like, my sons, they have some talent. We played a talent show at my brother's high
Yep.
school. It went over real well. So when I saw that, I said this is kind of reminiscent of the same time, because me and my brother, we look at ourselves as your shirt says Generation Jones on it. So
It does.
me and my brother Anthony,
We are all part of. By the
you're right.
way.
We're the younger,
Yeah.
the cohort of the baby boomers, but we're Mark's Gen X, but we're in that murky area, and my brother's in there too. Where we like the old stuff, but we also like the new stuff. In 1979, when the Emerson brothers put out this record, there was all that great music: Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Sniffing the Tears, all those great
Yeah.
went-off
Yeah.
singles. So it was a fertile time, but they worked without influence because in 1978, their father bought a tractor with a AM/FM radio. So Donnie Emerson was listening to this stuff while he was plowing these fields, absorbing all these odd random hits. So he had no musical point of reference to create his own music. So if you listen to it, it's very innocent, but it encompasses like country, soul, There's like a funky instrumental.
Oh,
It's
I thought you were going to tell me that he ran over one of the kids with a thrasher and
Oh, come on.
you know, I had an uncle. He worked in an ophthalmology factory, so he fell into the lens grinder and made a spectacle of himself.
oh, geez, I don't have that thing. I don't have that sound effect, Lou.
I just
I don't
heard
have
it.
the.
It's
I just.
boom.
Oh wait.
Yeah.
This deserves a.
yeah, okay.
Listen, what's in it now? They're called the Emerson Brothers.
Well, they put out 2 records. They did one official record called
Okay.
Dreamin' Wild. So you have to look up Donnie and Joe Emerson. I sent
Okay.
you both links to it.
Yeah. Maybe Mark can he'll load up the link on the
That's exactly
on
what
Facebook.
I'm going to do.
On Facebook, yeah.
Mark can have to rename the show
Right.
too. On
So
now,
so what happened was when this record collector made this little undiscovered treasure known, it became very hip in certain musical circles. So, excuse me, Ariel Pink had a hit off this record with the song
Who's Ariel
"Baby."
Pink? Is that the singer called Pink?
No,
I've
I
heard of
don't.
that name. I've heard of him.
Yeah, don't quote me. I think that
Oh.
actually there's some controversy surrounding this artist now because of some certain political views that the artist has aired that we won't talk about here. But in the summer of 2012, I read it said this was a hit song for a lot of American youth. It's very romantic. When I hear this, I think of the time it came out. You know, it's your first girlfriend music. It's very beautiful. But it's very innocent. But it's stylistically, it's got some interesting touchstones because this was 2 young kids that really had no prior knowledge of anything. So their influences, it was very raw. Whatever came into the radio, this kid synthesized, and it's very interesting. It's known for its naivete, its purity, its innocence. So what they did in that 18-month period, they recorded a whole bunch of songs. They recorded 70 songs. So there was another record called "Still Dreamin' Wild" that got put out on the record label called Light in the Attic. They specialize in reissues and obscurities like that. So these songs were recorded between 1979 and 1981. So I'll give you the titles of the record. So "The Dreamin' Wild" by Donnie and Joe Emerson, 1979.
Yeah.
The first track was "Good Time," "Give Me a Chance," "Baby," which they got a hit. Yeah, and I think they're copyrighted. I think they got what they got from this.
So Baby's on Dreamin' Wild, right?
Dreamin' Wild, yeah.
Yeah.
And also by Ariel Pink.
Okay.
The 4th song is "Feels Like the Sun." I think the instrumental might be called "Love Is." It's kind of a funky instrumental. It's interesting because you hear these other, like the kids are orchestrating. I think it's via the Moog. So recorded in a vacuum, a influence vacuum. There's a song called "Don't Go Lovin' Nobody Else," "Dream Full of Dreams," and the last track is called "My Heart." Give it a listen to. I think you got nothing to lose, and if you got an ear for this era where like kids were writing, we're in a point where teens are like kind of going through shit. Everyone's going through stuff, but this was very of its time.
Yep.
Yeah. Do it.
So it's Donnie. Who is it? Donnie and Joe Emerson.
Donnie and Joe Emerson. The album is called "Dreamin' Wild."
Donnie and Joe Emerson. Dreamin' Wild.
Like yeah, and if
Is
you
it
like
Donnie
that,
is it Donnie with a Y?
Donnie, like Donnie Wahlberg.
Donnie and Joe.
Not like Donnie Osmond.
No, but right, but like Donnie Van Zant.
Okay, so anyone out there that subscribes to Spotify, their album is on Spotify.
Yeah,
Dreamin' Wild is up there.
Right.
All right,
I
cool.
heard it. Now I heard it on the radio, and when I heard it, I said, "This is kind of weird. It's got a very dreamy, very amateurish, very reverby sound." But something caught me. The song has no real resolution. And a reviewer said in retrospect, because it's got some unanimous praise from critics. There you go. Thanks, Mark. Look at the Elvis colors on the Emerson Brothers.
Yeah, I see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now they said they were 10 years behind the times because they lived in a vacuum. So in their minds, it was 1969 in Vegas, maybe with Elvis. Yeah, I love the innocence of the whole thing. I really do. It makes you think that it still exists.
Is it kind of like
Hanson? Anyone out there?
Exactly.
Give it a listen. Give it a listen.
Yep. Yeah, because Hanson,
Donnie and Joe Emerson.
And when Hanson came out, everyone was like, "Oh!" I still to this day hear people saying, "I love Hanson." They were like, "I've never really listened to him, but people love Hanson."
I have a niece who loved Hanson when she was 12. Bop.
Yeah, it's a bumper sticker in Nashville. There's an "I Love Hanson" bumper sticker I've seen a lot of
Really? All right, guys, I've got a couple trivia questions. Can I hit you with them?
Of course.
Before we
before
you
my
said we're not
bladder
gonna,
bursts.
you said we're not going to get them.
you're not going to get these.
I don't think you're
not
going to
going to
stump
get
Lou.
these.
Don't be so
My
cocky.
bet
You're going
is
to be
on Lou.
defeated badly.
No,
All right.
Lou's going to get this.
Okay. Who? The only artists to have a number one song on both sides of the Atlantic and never charted again.
Oh.
I'll give you a hint. The year was 1969. So the only artist ever to have a number one hit on both sides of the Atlantic and never chart again.
Albert Hammond.
Al Cooper.
Zager and Evans in the year
Really?
2525.
Wow.
Number one on both sides of the Atlantic. They never charted again. Yeah.
Wow.
They went to the chicken business.
They're from Nebraska, by the way, too. They're
Chicken
from
business.
Nebraska.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, I've got
All right.
one more trivia question. In 2019, what artist received a BMI award for having the most played song in radio history?
2019. The award was given?
2019, what artist received a BMI award? It's not ASCAP. This is BMI. A BMI award for having the most played song in radio history.
Barry
He's
Gibb.
still active today. He's still here today.
touring,
Still playing,
recording.
still writing, still touring,
So
all
it's-
of it.
So it's
Jimmy
not Michael
Buffett.
Jackson.
Jimmy Buffett.
BMI is like a European thing. ASCAP is like the American. BMI is like it might be UK.
David
Paul,
Hasselhoff. No.
Paul McCartney.
I'll say it one more time. What artist in 2019 received a BMI award for having the most played song in radio history? Now think about that. The most played song in radio history.
All right, I have
Not a
my guess.
Beatle. It's not any of those guys.
I have my guess. Lou, think about it.
Man.
Just
I-
like my
I
name
think-
tonight, I'm going to kind of shoot a blank, but I have an idea.
What is it?
Rod Stewart.
Lou?
Van Morrison.
Every breath you take,
Sing a ding ding ding.
every move you make, you got it. Received the BMI award for the most played song in radio history.
A disturbing song too.
Every breath you take is the most played song. Wow.
Might have been helped
Okay.
because there was that super rap hit. I forgot, it was a P. Diddy that sampled it, and that also got it more plays. Like he sampled the song, like you hear it in the
Wow.
background as the chorus. But yeah,
Perry, you were right.
Well,
You
why
got
don't
us.
we? What do you mean? You looked it up? You're checking me? Like I don't
No,
do
no,
my
no.
research.
Neither Mark nor I got these questions. That's why. You stumped
I
the panel.
stumped the beast. Yes.
You stumped the beast.
That's a game show where
Lou.
they're like you stumped the beast.
Put me in a cage.
hey Lou, Perry's wrong. It's Bernard Purdy in the Purdy Shuffle.
Yeah,
That was-
right.
I didn't want to say. I didn't want to say that.
Yeah, right.
No.
Okay,
He played
guys.
on. Bernard Purdy played on the Edenville CD.
Really good.
Yeah. The producer came and said, "Lou, you're not cutting it."
Oh,
Bernard's gonna
really?
do it.
Is that really what happened?
No.
Out of
No
all
way,
three
man.
of us, out of all three of us, who sat in a room with
Are we
Bernard
done?
Purdy? Me.
2 hours. This is it. You did.
Yeah. Yeah. This is the Music Relish
What?
Show. You can find the Music Relish Show on Spotify, on
think we have to-
Pocket
we have to cut-
Cast, on Overcast, on Amazon Music. And Mark, what is that, man? I can't read you. What are you, a doctor? I can't read that. Hey,
Perry, I
Bubbles.
want you to take the blue pill. I want you
Bubbles.
to take Viagra.
Bubbles.
I think we have to recover Frontiers Records next time.
Who's got your
Yes.
belly, Bubbles?
Next week, Bubbles, we'll do Frontiers Records.
I'm forever blowing bubbles, pretty bubbles in the air.
Kind of look like Elton John now.
Don Ho Hum, Tiny Bubbles.
Yo, the bitch is
Tiny
back.
bubbles in the wine, tiny bubbles.
And, yeah, so look for a future against.
Oh man, your eyes are bugging when you take one.
Rage Against the Cafe with Lou Colicchio, Mark Smith, Scott McLean, and Perry Dedovich.
That's right.
And, we'll be putting out an EP where each of us will come up with something. Scott will come
My
up with
song's
something.
gonna be angry.
Lou will come up with something, and then we'll create some music around it. We don't know what it's going to be. It could be fast, could be slow, could be weird, could be cool, whatever, man. Oh, there it is. Wait, I can't see it, Mark. What is it?
Center stage it. I see railroad.
It's
There we go.
Whiskey Mike, Romeo.
WMRR. W Music Relish Radio.
Whiskey Mike.
Rage
Romeo.
Against the Cafe coming to not a cafe near you.
WMRR. Do it
I
like
don't
Pig
know what
Bonnet.
the W designation is. I don't know. No. I know it's East Coast, West Coast. K is West Coast. W is East Coast. That's all I know. That's all I really know. Oh, and by the way, this show was presented by whom?
A befuddled looking Mark.
Lou, Mark, and Perry.
A very astute looking Lou and Perry and a befuddled Mark. Where am I?
Good night, everyone.
Good night.